declare a quorum present based on the information from the town clerk. Our quorum is 150 and we're approaching 300, so we have a quorum. A few announcements before we get started. First of all, as I'm sure you're aware, there's no smoking anywhere on this property. Obviously no smoking inside. If you have a cell phone with you, please turn it off. Same thing with a pager, except of course emergency personnel. We will tonight have a screen for hearing impaired, and if somebody needs to use it, there's still plenty of seats down here to my left. If you come down and view the screen, it is a good way to be able to keep track of what's happening if you have an issue in that regard. Again, a reminder, you can't participate without one of these green voter cards. This is evidence that you're a registered voter and that you've checked in for tonight's meeting. So you'll be called upon to show this card during the course of the meeting, so please have it ready. Anyone who's a non-voter who's in the hall, the non-voting section is the bleacher section immediately to my right. So anyone who is a non-voter, does not have a green card, has got to sit in that section. That helps us obviously with tallying votes and recognizing people who are able to speak. In Harwich, we have our, if you haven't been to town meeting before, we have our own rules of procedure. The selectmen print those in our warrant booklet. They're on pages 3 and 4. They're not all of the various town meeting bylaws, but there's the material ones, 1 through 8 on page 3. And then there's a motion chart on page 4, and that tells you all the motions that are in order at a Harwich town meeting and the quantum of vote that takes to pass them when those motions are made before the meeting. So the process we use here in Harwich on each article is that I will read the article, except if it's a lengthy article, and then I won't. And I'll mention the ones in a few minutes that I won't read in their entirety, just in case you want to make sure that you've read up on them. Once I've done that, then I look to the chair or another member of the Finance Committee to make a positive motion. If they don't have a positive motion, the Finance Committee is not recommending it, I will then ask if anyone else would like to make a positive motion, either on the floor or any place up front here. If nobody brings a positive motion, our bylaw directs me to return to the Finance Committee, and they will make a motion to indefinitely postpone, and then we will debate and act on the motion for indefinite postponement. And that's the process that we follow for each article. The articles I won't read in their entirety are as follows. Article 4, which is the operating budget, and hopefully you've had time to take a look at that. That's on 3 pages in the back of your warrant booklet, Appendix B. And I'll not be reading through all of that, although any portion of the budget is open for discussion when we open the motion under Article 4. Next article I won't read in its entirety is Article 15, which is the capital plan. That also is in an appendix. That's the very last page, I believe, in the warrant booklet, Appendix C, and that's the capital plan. So if you're interested in that one, make sure you take a look at the items and the construct of the plan before we get there. Article 16 is an article that proposes to fund certain capital projects, that are in the plan, and to fund them with free cash. And I think there's about 16 in number, and I'm not going to read all of those. So again, if you're interested in those and want to focus on them, make sure you look at that chart before we get there. Article 23 is a CPA article that has a chart in it where the CPA designates which buckets they're recommending that they put unused funds in. I'm not going to read that entire chart. You need to look at that if you're interested. Article 36, on page 36, I found that interesting. That was the only article that was on the right page. Is an amended Water Department bylaw, Chapter 300, completely rewritten. So if you're interested in that, make sure you take a look at it, because I'm not going to read that in its entirety. And then there's a series of zoning bylaws, which we may reach tonight or tomorrow night. We'll see, 36, 37, 38, and all of those, while I'll give you a summary before I go to the Finance Committee for a motion, I will not be reading the proposed zoning amendments in their entirety. And then lastly, Article 46, I will not be reading in its entirety as well. So those are the ones that, and there may be a few of the petition articles in the later part of the warrant that I don't. Whether we'll reach those tonight or not, I'm not at all sure. I suspect not, but we'll go as far as we can. My practice is not to take on any new business after 10:45. So if we're in the middle of an article, we'll try and finish it, but I'll not pick up anything new after 10:45. Before I go to the town clerk for the return of the warrant, a couple of other housekeeping matters. At this point, I want to recognize Selectman Don Howell. Mr. Howell wants to present a couple of Harwich Hall of Fame awards, and I think they're under my podium here. Yeah. Let me help you.
People say I need help. Thank you. Why don't we do this first? Since we're
Okay.
getting up here. Thank you, Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It's always a pleasure to do something like this. I recall long ago that Leo Kukunis and I actually came together to advocate having a Harwich Hall of Fame, and it's really important to the fabric of the community to recognize people who have made the community the way it is today. There are two that I have here that have made it through the process on time, and the first one I'm going to read, I would like to see, is there anybody here from Charles Hall's family? That will not...
That's Charles Hall, the former fire chief.
That will not deter me from saying it. All right, the first Harwich Hall of Fame inductee for this evening is Charles A. Hall, who lived from January 13th, 1921 through July 27th, 1991, and he is being inducted in May of 2023 today. Charles A. Hall served in the United States Marine Corps during World War II from 1942 to 1946. He was appointed acting fire chief for Harwich in 1947 and served until 1952. He was subsequently appointed fire chief in 1952 until he retired in 1979. Mr. Hall was married to Jacqueline Holmes Hall, and they had 5 children: Peter, Craig, Diana, Vicky, and John. He was an active member of the New England Association of Fire Chiefs. He enjoyed snowmobiling, and Charles A. Hall was dedicated to the residents of Harwich. I give you the Charles A. Hall's Hall of Fame. Now, I do know there's someone here for this. Carol Thayer, are you here? Come on down. It's always important to have one of the family members or the person themselves, if we can actually honor them while they're still around for us. So I'm happy to have Carol Thayer here tonight as we induct Sheldon Thayer Jr. into the Harwich Hall of Fame. Sheldon lived from July 1st, 1936 to January 24th, 2015, and he is being inducted tonight. Sheldon Thayer Jr. was a true native Cape Codder. Mr. Thayer's dedication to enhance the lives of many was shown through the years of service to his hometown, county, and the state. Mr. Thayer was a retired Barnstable High School teacher. Sheldon, as we all called him, who was one of the founding members of the Harwich Cranberry Festival, serving as its chairman, a member of the Harwich Finance Committee, and a Harwich Recreation and Youth Service Commissioner for over 20 years. He was a founder and president of the Barnstable County Finance Committee, Community Center Building Committee from 1998 to 1999, and the result is the building you're sitting in tonight, and a regular host of Harwich Channel 18. Sheldon Thayer, with a quick wit, will best be remembered for his distinctive voice and laugh. All things Harwich, his generosity of time and spirit, but most of all, his exuberant and colorful love of life. Carol, why don't you hold it up? These will be placed on the Wall of Fame and will be there for tomorrow night, I expect.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Let me help you here. Sheldon Thayer was the chairman of the Finance Committee at my first town meeting in 1976. I recall it distinctly. Next, let's see, I've got return of the warrant. Emily Mitchell.
Good evening. In the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Town of Harwich, Annual Town Meeting, May 1st, 2023. Barnstable. To either of the constables in said county, greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of said town qualified to vote in elections and town affairs to meet in the Community Center Gymnasium, 100 Oak Street, in said town on May 1st, 2023 at 7 p.m., then and there to act on the following articles. Hereof, fail not, and make return of this warrant with your doings thereon at the time and place of said voting, given under our hands this 3rd day of April 2023. Signed, Michael D. McCaskill, Chair, Mary E. Anderson, Vice Chair, Donald F. Howell, Clerk, Julie E. Kavanaugh, Larry G. Ballantyne, Board of Selectmen for the Town of Harwich. A true copy attest, signed David Robinson, Constable. And the return of warrant dated April 7th, 2023. By virtue of this warrant, I have this day notified and warned the inhabitants of the town of Harwich, qualified to vote in elections and town affairs, to meet at the Harwich Community Center, 100 Oak Street, in said town on Monday, the 1st day of May, 2023, at the time and place for the purpose herein named, by posting up attested copies thereon in the 4 post office buildings, in Town Hall, and the Community Center in the town of Harwich, which covers all 4 precincts, at least 14 days before the time of said meeting, as within directed, and causing an attested copy to be published in the Cape Cod Chronicle, published in Barnstable County, and having its circulation in the town of Harwich. Signed, David Robinson, Constable.
Thank you, Town Clerk Mitchell. And then finally, before I go to Article 1, would you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll now go to Article 1, to choose various town officers and committees. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 1 be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? Second. Motion under Article 1 is accept and adopt as printed in the warrant. Is there any debate? Hearing none, I'll put the matter to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Article 2, to hear reports of all town officers and committees for the year 2022. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 2 be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant.
It's been moved and seconded that Article 2 be accepted and adopted as printed. Is there any debate? Hearing none, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. The motion carries. I'll now recognize Mr. Hughes for the Finance Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Along with my 8 colleagues on the Finance Committee, we attempt to provide financial oversight to Harwich financial matters. And for this town meeting, we have reviewed budgets, plans, and requests which are seeking funds to operate and maintain our vibrant community. Tonight, you will consider and hopefully adopt a total of 5 operating budgets as follows. The town budget in Article 4 at $43,325,662. The Monomoy Regional School District budget in Article 5 at $28,469,466. The Cape Cod Regional Technical School budget in Article 6 at $2,014,200. The Water Department in Article 7 at $4,552,834, and the Wastewater Department in Article 8 at $1,993,973, for a total of $80,356,135. To support these budgets, we expect to receive, as detailed in something we call a recap sheet, $513,450 in real estate and personal property taxes, $15,884,801 in local receipts, $966,160 in state aid in the form of cherry sheet and overlay surplus, along with additional funding sources, for a total of $74,520,257 in available funds. In addition, the water and wastewater departments are funded through their enterprise funds. The bottom line is it's your money in various forms which support these operating budgets. Your town government will also expand in FY24. The town budget, I think as we all know, proposes to fund the following new and upgraded positions. 4 firefighters at a cost of $393,943, a planning zoning coordinator at $90,809, a building inspector part-time to full-time of $59,108, a zoning board clerk/administrator for $82,454, a program specialist at the community center for $77,812, and a custodian for the community center at $88,907. These staffing adjustments are expected to significantly reduce fire department overtime, improve shift coverage, improve customer service by reducing waiting times for inspections and reviews, and restore the community center program offerings and hours of operation. In addition, the wastewater budget includes $107,181 to fund an assistant wastewater superintendent to effectively and efficiently oversee and manage the expanding wastewater system in Harwich. The warrant presents the plan to move our town forward in FY 2024, and with your participation, we will discuss, deliberate, and vote on these matters over the next few evenings. And I remind you, every vote counts, and feedback is welcomed and encouraged. At this town meeting, you have the opportunity to dispose of $7,090,842 in free cash. These are the funds carried over from last year, including growth. $7 million is an extraordinary sum, which is the challenge to best determine its uses. As you will see in the warrant, there is a stampede to the free cash spending trough. It's tempting to advance many projects and opportunities which can be funded from free cash now with a simple majority vote of those present at this meeting. We have no definitive projection as to next year's free cash, but we know with certainty that we have $3 million currently available. The capital plan items presented in Article 16 propose to spend $4.9 million of that free cash, as opposed to an FY 2024 projection in the capital plan voted at last year's annual town meeting, which was just 12 months ago, called for $1.55 million in free cash spending. That's quite a difference. Article 22 makes the final land bank debt payment of $166,650. There are 11 CPC projects in the warrant totaling $2.3 million. I remind you that the community preservation funds are generated by a 3% surcharge on your real estate taxes, specifically to fund CPC articles which focus on preservation, recreation, and housing. The business of the town is a 12-month year-round operation. Preparation for the 2024 annual town meeting will begin shortly. On behalf of the Finance Committee, I extend our thanks and gratitude to all department heads, staff, the town administrator, and the Board of Selectmen for their efforts in preparing for the business we will conduct and disposition over the next few evenings. Thank you for your attention, and most importantly, your participating in the process we call town meeting. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. I've also had a request from the local comprehensive planning committee to give you a very brief update as to what's happening with that group. There are two members here tonight from that committee, Joyce McIntyre and Jeff Handler. If that, go ahead, Joyce, you can use that microphone right there in the middle.
Everyone, thank you for having us. My name is Joyce McIntyre. I have been elected and appointed the chair of the local planning committee. So really the point is to tell you about that and what that process is. Jeff Handler is our vice chair and here as well. So the local comprehensive plan for Harwich is due to be renewed. It's done every 10 years. You, as the community, have put together this committee. There's 11 of us. We applied. The Board of Selectmen appointed us. We've been meeting since September, and these are open meetings that you're welcome to come to, obviously recorded and public meetings. We are just about in the process to secure our consultant who will be helping us. And the point of this plan over the next 10 years is to really put our values together as a committee, our priorities, as a community. Where is the town headed? What are our values? We anticipate in the work we've done so far, really since the fall, that not a big surprise that water and housing are really top of mind. And this is just a very brief update. We want to tell you that we're meeting and we have a formal process for your input, which Jeff is going to tell you about.
Madam Chair, I would also like to add that we have a very committed and diverse group of members on this committee. It's been an absolute pleasure for me to learn and work with them, each and every one of them, since the day we began. And I would like to say publicly, thank you to all the committee members. It is a heavy and an extremely important lift to be charged with the construction for the blueprint for Harwich's next decade. Clearly, as Madam Chair stated, our wastewater management plan and our challenges surrounding housing will be a large part of our local comprehensive plan, and they will both get significant attention throughout our process. Our committee would like to make something crystal clear to the people of Harwich. This will not be the committee's local comprehensive plan, but rather it will be our local comprehensive plan, the plan of our people, of our townspeople. That is precisely the commitment our committee will make to all of you this evening. And to accomplish this, we have created subcommittees. That was Joyce's idea, and it was a fantastic one. Our subcommittees, they will mobilize and engage directly with our residents, our stakeholders, our small businesses, the owners, and our town employees to acquire the necessary information and gain valuable insight to make this truly a local comprehensive plan created by the people of Harwich for the town of Harwich. We are excited as a committee and anxious to begin the community outreach phase of our project with the guidance and counsel of our inbound consultant. Please feel free to contact Joyce or myself throughout this process if any of you ever have any questions or concerns or would like to be heard. Thank you so much.
You heard it here first, and we'll be pestering you to get your participation in a very formal, transparent process. So thanks for being here.
Thank you both for that report. We'll now move to Article 3. See if the town will vote the salaries of the elected officials of the town for fiscal year commencing July 1, 23 and ending June 30th, 24 as follows, and to act fully thereon. Selectmen 5, $2,400 each. Moderator, $1,000. Water Commissioner and wastewater, $1,000 each. Library trustees, $1,000 each. Town clerk, $96,719. Mr. Hughes, do you have a positive motion?
I move that Article 3 be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant.
Motion is made under Article 3 to accept and adopt as printed. Is there any debate? Hearing none, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Article 4, and this is our town operating budget, which I indicated to you is in the back of your warrant booklet, Appendix B. We're voting the third column of the Select Board's column. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow such sums of money as may be required to defray town charges for fiscal year 2024 and to act fully thereon. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 4 be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant and at the sum of $43,325,662 be appropriated for the purposes listed in Appendix B under the column entitled BOS, Board of Selectmen recommended FY 2024, and further that the sum of $41,694,505 be raised and appropriated, and that the following amounts be transferred as follows. Community Preservation Act FY 2024 estimated annual revenue, $166,650 to fund land bank debt service, overlay surplus $200,000, PEG access and cable related fund $214,996, golf infrastructure and improvement $98,450, and various betterments $70,000 for the purpose of funding the fiscal 2024 operating budget for the purpose of funding, it's repeated twice, the fiscal 2024 operating budget. There's a mistake.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. I'm not going to repeat the motion. It is the same figure as the figure in your warrant, $43,325,662. As required by the town charter, I'll now go to Mr. McCaskill, Chair of the Board of Selectmen, to present the budget to you. Mr. McCaskill.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'd like to invite Selectman Anderson up to help me honor Larry Ballantyne. This will be Larry's last town meeting as a selectman. He served many years in Harwich, so we've created a proclamation for him.
And I'd like to get Larry up here so we can thoroughly embarrass him. This is a resolution honoring the years of service of Selectman Larry Ballantyne to the town of Harwich. Whereas it is appropriate for good citizens to honor their loyal and faithful public servants, and whereas Larry Ballantyne was elected to the Board of Selectmen in 2009, 2012, 2017, and 2020, and served as chair of the board and a member of the Board of Selectmen Interview Committee, and whereas Mr. Ballantyne served the town diligently as a member of the Conservation Commission from 2004 to 2009, as well as an alternate member of the Pleasant Bay Resource Management Alliance Steering Committee from 2004 to 2009, and whereas Larry was supported by his family, most especially his wife Judy, throughout his years of service. Therefore, we extend our profound thanks and express our deepest appreciation to Mr. Ballantyne and his family for his dedicated service to the town of Harwich. Signed by Michael McCaskill, Chair, Don Howell, Clerk, Mary Anderson, Vice Chair, and Julie Kavanaugh.
Thank you. Who knows? I need a bow tie for that.
Thank you very much. Just one observation. I'm always amazed of how many good people we have in Harwich and how much knowledge we have in Harwich. As you know, we live and die by volunteer committees and by how we work together. And there's never been a subject that I've ever asked about or asked for help on that there wasn't one, at least one, and oftentimes several experts in town. And the town works because of all this, all the help we give each other. So thanks again.
And now we'll go to Mr. McCaskill for the budget.
Good evening. On behalf of the Select Board, Finance Committee, and Town Administration, we welcome you to the annual May Town Meeting, and we thank you for your participation. Tonight, we present 62 articles for your consideration, including the fiscal '24 town and school budgets and important and capital improvements. At the core of the town budget is the important services that we provide to the residents and hardworking Harwich employees who deliver these services. This board spent a significant amount of time reviewing where we could increase services that would benefit our residents while still being fiscally responsible. We listened to resident input in making these important investments for the community, and tonight we ask your support for the addition of 9.5 new positions to bolster town services in our permitting departments, public works, and wastewater divisions, to enhance the availability of the community center, and to increase staffing capacity of our fire and rescue department. The demands on public safety have increased substantially over the past 10 years. In 2022, the Fire and Rescue Department responded to 4,857 calls. Not only has the volume of calls increased, the complexity of calls and situations that our fire and rescue staff respond to has increased. The fire department takes in approximately $1.7 million in ambulance receipts annually, which assists the town with our budget. We are directing $200,000 in overtime towards the 4 new fire and rescue positions, and we promise to continue to work with the fire chief to ensure that any savings in overtime spending that is a result of additional staff are directed towards supporting new hires in future budgets. These 9.5 staffing enhancements represent approximately $875,000, including benefits. The details on the proposed new hires are in Appendix B of the warrant as described in Article 4. The FY24 town budget. Although we are proposing staffing enhancements, the town budget represents an overall 2.7% increase, and we are not asking voters for additional operating funds to support staffing increases. The town certified free cash is at a record level, which gives us an opportunity to direct those funds towards important infrastructure investments. Of the $7 million available in free cash, $4.9 million, if approved, will be invested in capital expenditures, including $700,000 in annual road maintenance funding, which is normally requested via an override, $25,000 in technology upgrades for the library. We understand that some of our local families are struggling to stay in our community. In response to the need and following the lead of other surrounding towns, we are creating a preschool stipend fund with $250,000 in free cash, which will assist our families in offsetting the cost of child care while they work and contribute to our economic vitality. We are also directing $1.2 million to our general stabilization fund in line with the best financial practices and to ensure the stable financial future of Harwich. We understand that the finance team, working with the Select Board and Finance Committee, needs to do a better job estimating local receipts and managing free cash totals. We are dedicated to being fiscally responsible with your tax dollars. We are invested in a good long-term planning via the 5-year capital planning process and financial forecasting that is grounded in solid financial principles. The Community Preservation Committee is making significant investments in recreation, open space, historic preservation, and housing in the amount of $2.3 million, represented in Articles 22 through 34. This includes the last $166,000 of the land bank payment. We thank them for the work they do on behalf of the community. The board has worked diligently in conjunction with town staff and our residents to create an outstanding and viable cultural center, now renamed 204 Sisson Road. We have hired a director received 2 cultural district designations from the state, and made the cultural center into a thriving artist community, as well as using some space for other town offices and programs. We hope to have constructive dialogue with the public about future investments in 204 Sisson Road. Due to the age of the building, and as outlined in a 2011 report about the former middle school building, we are asking for $2 million in facility upgrades. 204 Sisson Road has become a great benefit to the community, and the long-term goal is to make it self-sustaining. But in order to achieve that goal, we need to make key investments now. Cultural center and districts drive economic growth, strengthen our distinctive local character, and improve the quality of life of families. By supporting arts, humanities, science organizations, cultural districts attract tourists and entrepreneurs, which in turn help communities foster their cultural sector and expand their tax base. Our Cultural Affairs Director, the board, and administration are happy to answer any questions about this important community asset and why we are asking you to support this investment via Article 16. The town of Harwich has made significant progress in implementing our comprehensive wastewater management plan. While we continue to invest in the East Harwich phase with state grants, no-interest loans, and local contributions from the Cape Cod Wastewater Fund, we ask for your vote to authorize the funding to complete this portion of the work via Article 21. We are also investing in West Harwich Route 28 water and wastewater infrastructure in conjunction with state Mass DOT repaving project. The town of Harwich is a leader in comprehensive wastewater planning and implementation, and we thank the voters for their continued support of these efforts. My colleagues and I are honored to represent work on behalf of the Harwich citizens. We look forward to spirited but constructive debate this evening as we engage in the democratic process of annual town meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCaskill. Mr. Powers, Town Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Through you, good evening, folks here at town meeting. My intent right now is just to provide some quick numbers, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions as we go forward this evening. From the 2 chairs that you just heard from, I want to confirm that for our warrant this evening and for our budget effort, we are relying upon $57,410,749 from raising the tax levy limit on real estate and personal property. The uses for that you will see in Article 4, as I was stated in the table, Articles 5 and 6 for the 2 school districts, and a portion for Article 8 for the wastewater budget. I want to emphasize, however, that we are using 99.82% of the levy limit available this year. That number is consistent with the last several years and is nothing new to come before this town meeting. Specifically, under Article 4, as you'll see in Appendix B, we are seeing a 2.41% increase year over year with the uses of both levy limit and local receipts. As the chairman of the Board of Selectmen indicated, the departmental portion of the operating budget, or our departments, the men and women mostly that you see over on my right, who run our day-to-day operations, that budget went up by 2.69%. The overall budget under Article 4 goes up 2.72% year over year, with increases in the departmental budgets, increases in semi-fixed costs, and decreases in debt service. And then last but not least, Mr. Moderator, if I could, there was a reference to free cash. I will emphasize that we do not ever use free cash to prop up our operating budget. We do, however, rely upon it as a sound practice in accordance with Department of Revenue Division of Local Service requirements. This evening and tomorrow evening, sorry, had to admit to it, you will hear that we have certified $7,090,842 in free cash. If you take a moment to look on page 7 in your warrant, there is, because it's not mine, I can say a simple definition of free cash. Page 6, thank you, sorry, page 6 in your warrant should be the definition of free cash. Very quickly, however, the numbers that we used, the numbers that we have for that, of the $7,090,842, we are impacting upon Article 12 for the child care stipend program that was mentioned, Article 13 for support of our library programs, Article 16 for capital items, as was referenced before, Article 44 to assist in the disposal of town property, Article 45 for the acquisition of property for the town, Article 49 to finish a project that this town meeting started related to the Judah Eldridge property, and as the chair of the Board of Selectmen indicated, $1.2 million. However, I would correct that the motion that you have in your motion book puts in the $1.2 million a portion in the general stabilization fund as well as portions in the two special purpose stabilization funds or whatever action this town meeting takes. We rely upon free cash to support Articles 51, unpaid bills, Article 52, support of other libraries, Article 53, promoting Harwich, which is our support of our Chamber of Commerce, and Article 54, which is supporting the Cultural Council. Of the $7 million, if all goes as recommended, there will be a balance of $209,224 in free cash, and that will become part of free cash for next year. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. So we have a main motion on the floor under Article 4, the operating budget. It's accept and adopt. The total figure is the figure in your warrant, $43,325,662. Further debate? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Article 5. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow such sums of money as may be required to pay for the Monomoy Regional School District assessment for fiscal year 2024 and to act fully thereon. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 5 be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant, and that the sum of $28,469,466 be raised and appropriated for the purpose of funding the Town of Harwich's assessment for the FY 2024 annual operation of the Monomoy Regional School District.
Motions are made and seconded by Mr. Hughes that Article 5 be accepted and adopted. The figure is the same number in your warrant, $28,469,466. It's to be raised and appropriated, and it's to pay the town's assessment for the Monomoy Regional School District. Is there any debate? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Article 6. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow a sufficient sum of money as may be required to pay for the Cape Cod Regional Technical High School District assessment for fiscal 2024 and to act fully thereon. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 6 be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant, and that the sum of $2,014,200 be raised and appropriated to fund the annual operation of the Cape Cod Regional Technical High School.
Motion under Article 6, accept and adopt. The figure is the same as in your warrant, $2,014,200. It's to pay the Cape Cod Regional Technical High School assessment. Any debate on the motion? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. Motion carries unanimously. Article 7. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow such sums of money as may be required to defray the Water Department operating budget for fiscal 2024 and to act fully thereon. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 7 be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant, and that the sum of $4,552,834 be transferred from Water Department receipts to operate the Water Enterprise Fund, and further to transfer the sum of $50,000 from the Water Department budget to other post-employment benefit trust fund created under Article 8 of the May 6, 2014 special town meeting, and that the sum of $818,913 be transferred to the general fund to pay indirect costs for the Water Department.
Motion's been made under Article 7. It's accept and adopt. Again, the figure is the total figure in your warrant that's in the motion, $4,552,834, and it's to be transferred from Water Department receipts. And then, as the motion read, there'll also be a payment to OPED and a payment to the general fund of the town to cover the indirect costs of the Water Department. Debate on the motion under Article 7. Seeing none, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. Unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Article 8. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow such sums of money as may be required to defray the wastewater department operating budget for fiscal 2024 and to act fully thereon. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 8 be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant, and that the following amounts be transferred as follows. $858,742 from Article 9 of the 2022 Annual Town Meeting, $15,000 from sewer receipts, $105,181 from wastewater retained earnings, and further that the sum of $1,015,050 be raised and appropriated for the following purposes, and that the sum of $62,148 be transferred to the general fund to pay indirect costs for the wastewater department.
Motion been made and seconded under Article 8. There is excuse me, 1 second. Is there a total in this one? Is it the same, do you know, as the warrant?
It should be as the warrant.
Yeah.
What's it say in the warrant?
$1,993,973.
1 million what?
993,973.
For a total of $1,993,973. You good with that?
Thank you. So there was a motion under Article 8. It was accept and adopt, and it mentioned a number of transfers in various amounts and a raise and appropriate number. And Mr. Hughes has confirmed that this motion totals appropriation of $1,993,973 for this purpose. So it does match the number in your warrant. Any debate on the motion? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of that motion, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. Motion carries unanimously. Article 9. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds or borrow such sums of money that may be required for the purpose of funding the public access station, Cape Cod Community Media Center, 17 Shad Hole Road, Dennisport, providing the public access television to the citizens of Harwich and to act fully thereon. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 9 be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant, and that the sum of $157,037 be transferred from the PEG access and cable-related fund for this purpose.
Motion been made and seconded, and under Article 9, it's accept and adopt. The sum is $157,037, and it's proposed to be transferred from the PEG access and cable-related fund for this purpose. That is the estimated number that was in the warrant, $157,037. Any debate? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. Motion carries unanimously. Article 10, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow a sum of money to fund items in the table below and to act fully thereon. And there's a brief table. There's equipment, meeting rooms, and field equipment, and fund Channel 22 at Monomoy Regional High School. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 10 be accepted and adopted, and the sum of $47,222 be transferred from the PEG access and cable-related fund for this purpose.
Motion under Article 10 is accept and adopt. The sum is $47,222, and it's proposed to be transferred from the PEG access and cable-related fund for this purpose. Is there any debate? Hearing none, I'll put the matter to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Article 11. See if the town will vote to enter into various lease purchasing financing agreements for town equipment, including in the operating budget for FY23. Said leases may be for a term not to exceed the useful life of the equipment as determined by the Board of Selectmen or act fully thereon. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 11 be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant.
Motion on Article 11 is accept and adopt as printed. Is there any debate? Hearing none, I'll put the matter to a vote. This requires a 2/3 majority to pass. All those in favor of the motion as read so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Article 12. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow a sufficient sum of money to fund a preschool family support program for the 3- and 4-year-old population within the town of Harwich, and to act fully thereon. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 12 be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant, and that the sum of $250,000 be transferred from free cash for this purpose.
Motion under Article 12 is accept and adopt. The sum is $250,000, and it's proposed to be transferred from free cash for this purpose. Is there any debate? Laurie.
So this is for preschool kids, correct?
That's correct.
Who's been paying, how are they being taken care of up until now? That we need to spend a $250,000?
Let me see if I can get you an answer. Selectman Kavanaugh, Julie Kavanaugh.
How many children within that age group are censused?
So, good evening. The reason that we're looking for the $250,000, and to answer your question in terms of who's currently paying for those children to go to preschool, that would be whoever their guardians are, whether they be parents, grandparents, etc. The idea behind the article is to help young families remain here in Harwich by being able to offer them some money to defray the cost of childcare, which is an extraordinary cost to families, and hopefully what we're able to do is keep young families here. As you know, we're losing young people from the Cape, unfortunately, all over the Cape. So that's the idea.
So the $250,000 would go to the town, a town-owned, a town-operated daycare?
So the amount of money will be with families will apply through an application process, and it's to help 3- and 4-year-olds go to preschool. Those will be assessed. We have no idea how many applicants we'll get. I worked closely with Lucy Gilmore and the young childhood specialists in town and surrounding neighborhood and neighboring towns. And ultimately, it's difficult to identify how many people we're going to be able to help. The idea is to set aside these funds, have an application process, and then what will happen is whatever money is granted towards that child care, some kids go 2 or 3 days a week, some kids have to go every day. This allows families not only the ability with help to pay those costs, but also may allow families to have a full-time position when maybe the mom or the dad has a part-time position. And then on top of that, allows younger people to stay in town, hopefully, gives a stable source of income, and we hope that maybe there'll be an increase in child care providers, because that's another problem we have here all over the Cape, and ultimately helps the town by having young families in town, helps our school system, helps our firefighters, our police, all of these things by being able to keep people local at a time where we're really struggling with that.
The funds, if I may, just to clarify, the funds, I think, go from the town directly to the certified preschool.
Yes, sorry, yeah.
On behalf of the child
They
or
would be
children.
handled directly to the child care provider, that's right.
Thank you. Any further debate on the motion under Article 12? Yes, Mr. Kukunis.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We're actually creating a grant fund here. Is there an anticipation of creating a committee that we'll be able to follow how many grants are asked for, how many are given out, and are we going to be seeing this amount of money on a yearly basis to keep funding this grant process? Because I think some of the people thought it was an actual program that you're starting, and it's not. It's a grant application. And I'm just curious as to, who's going to be supervising this and reporting back to us their expenditures.
Selectman Howell, to respond to Mr. Kukunis's question, how will the grants be administrated?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Kukunis is absolutely right. This is not an expansion of a government program in any way, shape, or form. It's a voucher program for people to be able to use the money at preschool programs that are certified for that purpose. There will be a process, but what I can't guarantee you is that there'll be money next year and the year after. We're going to have to assess that. It is a high priority for us because it's one of the only other ways that we can deal with the impact of the high cost of housing for workforce. Again, this is designed to be a voucher program. It's not designed to be a new government program.
That answer your question, Mr. Kukunis? Thank you. Any further debate? Mr. Bullis?
Hi, Linda Cibula. I didn't hear an answer as to who was going to administer these funds and review these applications. Who is that going to be? I didn't hear an answer to, was it going to be a committee? How are these going to be administered and assessed?
Mr. Powers?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The response to that is we're modeling and the intent is for a pilot, and as Selectman Howell indicated, the pilot may lead to a future program. However, as I said earlier, we're relying on free cash because this is not yet a government program where there's full commitment to it. Rather, what we're doing is we're building on the model that we've seen in Chatham, Brewster, Provincetown, Wellfleet. A portion of the funds will be used through RFP to get a management company, as other towns use, to evaluate the applications. Folks that are already cleared for this sort of information, the recommendation then would be through the management company. So there's a portion of the money that will be used for the procurement of the management company, and I believe the direct model is the town of Chatham.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further debate? Yes, ma'am. No? Any further debate? Yes, on this side.
I'm just curious if this would be an income-based program or this would be open to anyone that applied.
Select Board Member Kavanaugh.
It's currently open to anyone who applies.
Any further debate? Yes, ma'am.
Hi there, Annie Haven, 41 Mella Lane. I would like people to consider the creation of this program, even though it seems like we don't have all of the details we might like. I spent an entire year working solely for dental bills and childcare bills, a full year of my salary, because childcare is so expensive. Thank goodness I have a partner who works. Thank goodness I had a local daycare provider here in Harwich so that I didn't have to go far away for my child. But it's really, really expensive. It is as much as a mortgage to pay for your child to go to preschool. It's so hard. You have to pull in people to drive your child because some of the daycare times are not workable for working adults. The moving parts for young parents are really incomprehensible to people if they haven't had children recently, and it's so expensive. I think this would help a lot of people, and it would help people want to stay in the community and might attract people to the community, because I know that friends that are having young kids look at towns like P-Town, who provides wonderful services, and now Chatham has a program. And so if you're a young family, you're looking to see how towns are supporting young families. And I really think that this is our opportunity to say, hey, Harwich is too. We love kids. We actually have the biggest elementary school on Cape Cod. Harwich Elementary has more students in that one school than any other school on Cape Cod. So we have a lot of kids here that need to be served and lots of little siblings that could be served by this program. So I hope that people, even though we might not know all of the answers yet, will consider getting this going so that we can get whatever it takes, a committee someone who's going to obviously be approving the applications. To be able to start it and support it, I think would say a lot about our town and how we feel about young families. Thank you.
Any further debate under the motion under Article 12, which is accept and adopt? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. The motion carries. Article 13, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow a sufficient sum of money to be used for the purchase and replacement of technology equipment and software for the Brooks Free Library and to act fully thereon. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 13 be accepted and adopted and that the sum of $25,000 be transferred from free cash for this purpose.
Motion under Article 13 is accept and adopt. The sum is $25,000. It's proposed to be transferred from free cash. Is there any debate? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as read so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Article 14. See if the town will vote to transfer from certified free cash a sum of money representing the national opioid settlement distributions received to date to provide the town with support services to mitigate the impacts of the opioid epidemic, said funds to be expended under the direction of the Select Board pursuant to grant agreements between the town and various nonprofit entities providing substance abuse services to the residents of the town or take any other action relative thereto. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 14 be accepted and adopted and that the sum of $60,000 be transferred from free cash for this purpose.
Motion's been made and seconded under Article 14 to accept and adopt and transfer the sum of $60,000 from free cash for this purpose. Is there any debate? Mr. Powers?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The funds for this one are a distinct free cash that's related to opioids, so it's its own fund. The total balance of that fund for the town is $63,841. So if this article is adopted, there'll be a balance of $3,841 that will roll over. We will get another free cash opioid certification next year, and that sum will be added to it. Thank you.
Any further debate under Article 14? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. Motion carries unanimously. Article 15, Capital Plan. See if the town will vote to, pursuant to Section 9(6) of the Town Charter, to adopt the 5-year capital plan for FY 2024 as proposed by the Board of Selectmen and is set forth in Appendix C. This is the last page in your warrant booklet, Appendix C, and to act fully thereon. No motion from the Finance Committee. Mr. McCaskill. For a positive motion, please.
I move that this Article 15, be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant.
Motion under Article 15 is accept and adopt as printed in the warrant. Is there any debate? Mr. Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. You know you're getting serious when you get your dedicated binder for Article 15. As the moderator indicated, you will see in Appendix C the capital outlay plan that was derived in concert with the Capital Outlay Committee. You may recall last year that there was a desire for the town to start the town meeting process earlier than before. As the gentleman to my right indicated, town meeting for next year is in 367 days. But who's counting? The Capital Outlay Committee started last year in June. They met over 6.5 months. They had more than 15 meetings, and they developed the plan that you can see in Appendix C. I will be the first one to inform you and to admit that under our charter form of government, the operating budget and the capital plan are the requirement for the town administrator to develop. However, the makers of the charter were kind enough to create a dedicated committee, and that is the Capital Outlay Committee. The major change that you'll see beyond the sticker shock, of course, and we can speak to that, is the layout of the plan itself. In an effort, and perhaps it might have caused more confusion, and that was not my intent, so if it did, I apologize. But in an effort to try and lay out a plan that, in my opinion, would be more transparent, I created a new category under facilities maintenance rather than having a building under a request from a department head. Rather, the requests come through, with the department head consultation, through the DPW department, through the facilities maintenance department. So when you look in the capital outlay plan for fiscal year 2024 to 2028, and you look for fiscal year 24, which you'll see over Articles 16 through 21, we are looking at an eye-popping $77+ million in capital requests starting in fiscal year 24. But if you look closer and you back out the generational, not unique to Harwich, water and wastewater needs, you're now reducing it by, call it 70 million or so. What we're asking for in this capital plan for fiscal years 2024 through 28 is the full amount that you see in Appendix B. But there has been ample discussion about the fact that there are certain lines that there are no dollar values. And the fact remains that that's purposeful. If the department head or the town does not have relevant information to add to the capital plan, we build the plan. The plan can also be referred to as a forecast. Articles 16 through 21 are fiscal year 24's capital budget, for lack of a better word. So I'm more than happy to go through the particulars through Articles 16 through 21, but I would be remiss if I didn't thank the efforts of the Capital Outlay Committee for their diligent work over the first 6.5 months of the plan, and for the Board of Selectmen for their support, and for the input of the Finance Committee. And again, I stand ready to answer your questions as best I can for the following articles. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, so, Ms. Moore, before I get to you, just so everybody's clear, this is a plan. There is a motion to accept and adopt the plan as printed in the warrant. We're not raising money under this article, but this is to accept and adopt the plan. Ms. Moore.
Lori Moore, Parallel Street. On the bottom of page 20, Finance Committee Strike Field does not adequately present the full capital needs of the town over the next 5 years. Are the Finance Committee, are you guys taking that back? Or is that still indefinite postponement? I read somewhere where they wanted to indefinitely postpone this because it's not adequately.
Yeah, so I'll direct that question to the Finance Committee. Somebody want to answer? Mr. McCready.
Thank you, Bob McCready. You may notice, as Lori did, that in the warrant that the Finance Committee voted 8-0 unanimously to recommend indefinite postponement of this article. I think we have a different point of view than the town administrator. That the purpose of the five-year capital outlay plan is to provide the town with a long-range forecast of the town's capital improvement needs and to attempt to keep debt borrowing levels as even as possible from year to year. The Finance Committee feels that the document presented in this year's warrant does not adequately present the full capital needs of the town over the next 5 years. Last year's plan was voted on by town meeting with the intention of being a renewed attempt to follow the Home Rule Charter more closely than this does. The capital outlay plan is a forecast. It is not intended or expected to be exact. However, it is intended and expected to provide the voters with an understanding of the scope of known and or planned capital expenditures over the intermediate time frame involved. The plan in Article 15 is, as indicated in the town's explanation, intentionally does not include estimates of later years' expenditures for some line items due to, as referred, uncertainties. The Finance Committee believes that this explanation is not a sufficient justification for not making future estimates of those line items. There are 2 items in particular that the Finance Committee believes the town should be more informative about: the town wastewater project and the 204 Sisson building project, as examples of my comments. In the case of wastewater, there have been many meetings by many groups over many years covering the wastewater project. It is well established that the all-in costs are extremely significant, likely hundreds of millions of dollars.
to the taxpayers, voters, and the time frame is likely to be squeezed by government. The Finance Committee believes that it is good policy to be transparent and regularly keep the citizens informed concerning these costs. By having no additional costs in the capital outlay plan out years, while including estimates for many other line items, the Finance Committee feels that the plan is missing the opportunity to keep the citizens sensitive to the magnitude of the long-term funding needed for this project, and therefore to the coming significant increases in debt servicing and consequently taxes that the town will face. In the case of the 204 Sisson Road building, that building has been identified as a multi-use building for municipal, cultural, and recreational use. The 204 action proposal for cultural affairs that has been presented to the town outlines many cultural goals and desired programs, and the Finance Committee supports that plan and the work that has been done in putting it together. However, there is no overall vision for the future uses of the building and no comprehensive renovation plan. Without this, the capital outlay plan not only misleads the taxpayer voters with regards to the total cost to make this building a highly marketable, functional, multi-use space, but also avoids any cost-benefit analysis of the overall project and cannot optimize renovation decisions. The list of improvements identified in the capital outlay plan make up almost $2 million in FY24 and almost $3 million over 5 years, and are all valid improvements, but they lack context. An example of this issue is that there is apparently no comprehensive climate control energy efficiency plan for eventually having an internal environment reflecting current future heating and cooling rehab thinking. Without a comprehensive plan that includes clarifying the so-called municipal use, there can be no understanding of other potential capital and operating issues. This piecemeal approach to spending millions of dollars on a major town asset indicates an unwillingness to commit to a vision for the building and have the work done to analyze the eventual costs and benefits, and rather take a very expensive Band-Aid approach to keeping the asset usable. Thank you.
Any further debate on the motion, which is accept and adopt the plan? Mr. Chori, John Chori.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I listened to the Finance Committee in their presentation, and I've listened to the selectmen in their presentation and the town administrators. And I just have a couple questions that I'd like to get answered to my own edification. This year's plan, FY24, there are 9 articles that are in the FY24 capital plan that were not in the approved fiscal 23 capital plan. There are 7 articles in FY24 capital plan this year, but the requested amount has increased from FY23. That I can understand. Of course, we're all suffering from inflation, supply chain, getting contractors. I can accept those 7 articles going up. There is one article in the FY23 plan, approved capital plan, labeled as new well construction. In the FY24 plan, capital plan, there is a line item labeled as new well exploration. And I'm just wondering which is the correct label, or are they 2 separate plans? There is one article in FY23 that was not in FY23 nor in FY24 for $90,000 at the library. And that doesn't show up on any plan here, but it's being requested not in this capital plan, but it is being requested in Article 16, which is the capital plan. And I share the same beliefs as the Finance Committee shares, that if you look at the capital plan, there's a bunch of zeros there. We have smart members of the department's heads here. They can put something in those numbers, and we all know inflation is going to change something, but to have 0 in there, we have no long-range planning. We have no way of smoothing out years. This year's capital plan, I think that was one number that you omitted, Peter, in your opening statement there. I mean, if you did, I missed it. I apologize. But the capital, total capital with the water, sewer, and this capital plan in there, you're looking at a capital plan of $77 million.
I don't.
When you add all the numbers that Mr. Hughes mentioned in his opening statement, you come with a grand total of $160 million, folks. $160 million that you're asking to spend tonight at the end of town meeting. You have approved the $160 million. And I'm off probably by a couple hundred thousand there, because I quite couldn't figure out where all the numbers were, but $160 million. Now, granted, that 71.2 million of that is water and sewage. You're still committing the town to spend that money. We saw in their forecasts from last year that in 23, that they estimated, what was it, 23, that the water and sewer this year would be $37 million, and somehow from 37 it went to $64 million. And again, inflation, but that's a pretty big jump of inflation there. So, you know, I think it's strongly not a good thing to not accept the capital plan, but this capital plan of these 9 articles all of a sudden appearing, all mostly with free cash. And I didn't see in this year's capital plan, too, there's usually a column, but it was left out of this year, of how all these articles are being funded. I figured out how most of them are being funded, but that's the reality, folks, of how you're spending tonight. You know, we breezed through 4 or 5 articles already. The town operating budget, Monomoy operating budget, the tech school, the water department, the sewer bill. We spent more money on child care at $250,000 than we did in those sum total of the budgets. So thank you very much.
All right. Further debate on the capital plan. Lori Moore.
Lori Moore, Parallel Street. Yeah, and then, like you said, the money going to the kids in preschools, and then we're understanding more why people can't afford to live here, because we don't make more money every year.
Further debate. Mr. Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. First, I would defer to you, Mr. Moderator, if I state something incorrectly, but my understanding is the question before the Assembly tonight under Article 15 is, will you adopt the plan? If you endorse this plan, it has no material effect on the subsequent Articles 16 through 21. So you can adopt the plan because it's a forecast, and then take any actions and, in fact, hopefully have a fuller debate under those other articles. And I would urge you to adopt the plan. I would be remiss if I didn't get back up here to correct the comments of a previous speaker. And as a former moderator, I'll say it this way. Not the immediate previous speaker, but the speaker prior. The speaker prior said that this plan has zeros in it, and that's an absolute incontrovertible fact, as did the plan that was in the warrant in 2022, as was the plan that was adopted when the previous speaker was the chair of the Finance Committee for a plan 2014 to 2020. But there weren't zeros, there were blanks. So for anyone to suggest this evening or throughout the process that by putting in a zero as a dereliction of duty is incorrect, and in fact is a time-honored tradition here in the town of Harwich. Now I know, and again I believe the moderator may want us to really get into Articles 16 through 21, and I look forward to that vigorous debate. So again, for Article 15, it's, do you want to adopt the plan? And if you adopt the plan, you do nothing to harm your chances of rejecting the other articles. But to stand here tonight and say that there was not thought, the Capital Outlay Committee, a volunteer committee of 5 individuals, met with the department heads that are represented in this plan from June through December. They met in the summertime, which is something they don't usually do, because they took it seriously. And with regard to the out years, which would say would be fiscal years 2027, or 28. The reason why we don't have wastewater in there is there's no one here tonight that can tell me or our water wastewater superintendent what we're going to be up against when DEP finally updates their regulations. Rather, however, this town, this administration, this Board of Selectmen, and this town meeting met on October 18, 2021 in special town meeting for the purpose of reopening our comprehensive wastewater management plan. Now, the projects in this plan under Article 15 aren't the new ones. They are updated. And last year's plan saw $30 million for a plan that's now $50 million. And if we put that one off, I can guarantee you it's not going to be $50 million next year or the year after. But the question before us tonight, right now, is shall we adopt a plan, yes or no? I would urge you to adopt it because it was thoughtfully crafted over months by department heads, committee members, Board of Selectmen, and your town administrator. But for anyone to think that zeros are new is just simply not accurate. Thank you.
Further debate on the motion? Yes, sir.
Robert Thomason, Oliver Snow Road, and I appreciate what the gentleman spoke earlier of on 204, and I agree with him. I think that more information is needed before we enter an unlimited rabbit hole on cost for this building. Last year at town meeting, we voted for a comprehensive study, and we never got that. I see them spending money on that building all the time, and I don't see a long-range plan. My question to you is, how many of the artists in there are actual Harwich residents, or are we actually subsidizing people from other towns to be in our cultural center? I think it's great that we have a cultural center, and I'm actually an artist myself. No one subsidizes my work. I pay for my own studio. I pay for my own heat. I pay for my own electricity. And I'd like to know how many of these people are from Harwich. Thank you.
Can anybody answer the gentleman's question regarding the residency of the tenants, artist tenants of 204 Sisson? Mr. McCaskill.
Getting head shakes, no. So we
Can't.
do not have that information for you tonight.
Mr. Chori, this is your second time speaking on this.
Yeah, John Chori, 153 Gorham Road. And I want to correct what the town administrator said. I was on the Finance Committee from 14 to 22 or 23. And I was on the Capital Outlay Committee in a couple of those years. And I debated strongly about the zeros. I do not like to see this. How can you have a plan when more than half the page is full of zeros? So I fought for zeros. I was debated with the chairman of the Capital Outlay. It wasn't a good idea or whatever. But I fought for those to be filled in, and they're not filled in, and they're still not filled in.
Further debate. This gentleman to my right.
Clarity, East Harwich. I notice there's a lot of sympathy and energy for $250,000 for the daycare, but when I hear $77 million or $100 and something million, that's what's pushing out young people. And maybe I'm trans young. I'm not young. I'm getting older, but we're seriously considering.
Happens to all of us, I think.
Yeah. It's like a train. We're all on the same train. I'm just a few cars back, maybe. Yeah, I mean, we're seriously considering a move, and not just because of these issues. There's a lot that goes into a decision, but I can tell you people aren't moving into Chatham because they have daycare programs. They're not moving to P-Town because they have a daycare program. You can't afford, $700,000 home, $1 million home. They tell me my home's, worth X amount. Great. That means my kids can't live here. We're going to get squeezed out. So why not do it while we have some agency in the decision? So I would say, I would just, I appreciate the folks that raised the concern of $77 million. The gentleman that stood up, and John Choi, my friend who stood up, and when I hear people at least concerned, vote however you want, but this is where the rubber meets the road.
This gentleman in the middle.
Ed Banks, 7 Vineyard Lane. To get back to the 204, those artists all pay rent, folks. They're not getting the benefit. And if some of them don't live in Harwich, but they're paying rent in our place, they're filling up 204. It's a benefit.
Mr. Otten.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I just have a question. If the plan is simply a wish list forecast, what is the implication if it is rejected and not approved? Can you tell me what the impact is? What happens?
We will not, if the capital plan fails, my understanding is the plan that's already in effect from 2023 will still be the plan that we voted last year. It will have a material difference on the next article, Article 16, because as indicated from some of the previous speakers, anything that was not in last year's plan that's in Article 16 would then be subject to the 2/3 vote requirement of the Home Rule Charter. And so what we'd need to do when we get to Article 16 is we'll have to figure out which items were in last year's plan and which weren't, because those would then require a 2/3 vote, in my view. I think that's the significance of saying, well, we just don't want to plan this year. So there is some direct effect on the vote you're about to take subsequently in this town meeting as to whether or not you have a plan. Gentleman in the middle.
Gary Conroy, Bay Road. There's something wrong here. 9 people voted to not accept this plan. So there's a huge disconnect between the Finance Committee and the majority of the board and the town administrator. And I think the daycare provision was a great example of what we're dealing with too often in the town. Is there's a lot of unknown answers, and the plans are brought to us way in advance of being ready. And this is a prime example of it, and I urge everyone here to vote against this, to send the right message to our town leaders. Thank you.
Further debate, Mr. McCaskill. We're still on Article 15, and the motion before you is still accept and adopt the plan. Mr. McCaskill.
Yeah, and I will try and keep this to Article 15. The capital plan, as mentioned by the town administrator, was done through a lot of thought, a lot of process, and a lot of meetings by people that are appointed to committees and did an awful lot of work. Some of, with all due respect to the Finance Committee, some of what's being talked about is what their belief is based on back-of-the-napkin conversations. The capital plan that you have in front of you has zeros in it and blanks in it because we're not asking for any money in those slots. What you're approving is what we're asking for. Nothing more, nothing less. As far as 204 Sisson Road, it's being said that no thought's gone into that and that we may need air conditioning. We may need air conditioning, but when I went to middle school there, we didn't have it, and we all survived. It may be something that we want, but we're not asking you for the money for that. We're asking to put money into a building that we own, that there is no other plan on, and that is being used, and that is an asset to this town. There's 2 or 3 of these binders full of all of the meetings and conversations that we've had related to capital, related to strategic plans, related to plans from the person that you all voted to hire to run that part of that building last year. We have plans, lots of plans. They just aren't, some are not happy with the plans. They're available to the entire public, and we've talked about them at no less than 15 meetings. And some of the folks speaking against this and making quotes on numbers that I'm not quite sure where they got them have been at none of those meetings and have not participated. The Capital Outlay Committee did their job. The Board of Selectmen debated this carefully with input from the residents that attended meetings, through outreach, We are only asking you for what is in that plan. The blanks don't matter because we're not asking.
Gentleman in the middle.
Thank you. Brian Sullivan from Deer Run. Just in support of what the selectman just said, if we all refer to the last column on the 5-year totals, there's only 1 0. So different department heads have put in what they anticipate an expenditure under the year required, such as the police department is asking for 1 cruiser for $183,000 for fiscal 2024, but they're not asking for 4 more new cruisers during the 5-year plan. So their total for that first year is at the end. So there's only 1 blank in this plan, which is under the Albro House, which I honestly don't know what that is. But it just shows the fact that the allocation has gone to the years that the department head has requested the funds, and that a blank does not mean there's been no thought put into this. Thank you.
Any further debate? Mr. Kukunis, are you?
Yes, thank you,
Great.
Mr. Moderator. We're trying to be as pleasant as possible. I think everybody's missing the purpose of the capital plan. I served on the original first capital plan committee back when the train left the station. Now I'm in a caboose with the gentleman on that side. The capital plan is not to be argued about the specific requests, i.e. the building, the buying of vehicles, and the expenditures for maintenance. The capital plan, the purpose of it is so that our tax rate and the ask to us for overrides will stay nice and flat. The purpose of a member of the Capital Outlay Committee is not to look at the project and to find if the project is worthy or not. That's your choice when the project comes up in front of you in an article. The idea behind the capital plan is to keep the town's borrowing figure, knowing how much debt we are retiring and how much new debt we can take it on, so that in fact our tax rate and our debt service stays level. And it's funny because when we originally did this, we used to use that data, and I was going to ask Carol to back me up on this. We would actually show that we want to do, if you want to spend $600,000 on 204 Cistern Road, fine, but do it in the 3rd year, because in the 3rd year, we will be retiring the debt from maybe the first high school we built or the present high school we built. It's all planning to keep the tax levy level. So I would ask that you do support it. I don't agree with a lot of the items in here, but we're going to have the ability to discuss those when the ask comes to you. But as a planning tool, we have to have a capital plan. And I'm really hoping that this town kind of looks back at why we have it and really explain to you all why it's here. And we should be shown. We're asking for $277 million this year. Why this year and not next year? Well, because this year we're retiring the debt. For instance, I heard we're retiring the land bank debt. Many of you in this room probably don't even know what land bank debt is. That's what we used to buy property with 22 years ago. So this year, we are no longer going to have land bank debt at $166,000 a year. Good year to keep the levy level even by maybe adding some new debt. So that might be why that this figure is so high. I don't know because I don't have that data in front of me. But vote the plan, because we have to do it. I agree with the moderator when he said if we don't vote this plan, we fall back via the charter to last year's plan, and we're going to be here for 3 nights. 3 nights, trying to figure out what's on the plan and not.
Yes, ma'am.
Alice Kelly from 8 Osprey Lane. The closer I get to 80, the more I realize that my ability to predict the future is diminishing year by year. It sounds to me as though the Finance Committee wants us to know exactly what's going to be happening over the next 5 years and to have those figures fill in those little zeros. But it doesn't take into account that COVID shows up, or a war starts in another part of the world, or some flooding comes through that screws up everything and makes us have to run around like crazy to find the money for it. It sounds to me as though the people working on the capital plan have worked with due diligence and considerable consultation to come up with the best deal they can come up with, given the uncertainty of life. And it sounds to me as if we deny the value of what they've done and say, no, we don't want a plan, we're just going to wing it, that we're going to end up even in more complicated things than we had thought were before. Every time I come to town meeting, there's something new that I'd never thought we were going to have to ask for money for. But that happens at home, too. I write the checks in our family. My husband has an MD and a PhD. You'd think he'd be the one to do that. I was an English professor. Give me a break. But the fact of the matter is, figuring out if you're going to have enough for whatever's coming always has to take into account that you don't know what's going to happen next. You do the best you can, and it sounds to me as though the Planning Committee has done the best it can, and that we need some kind of a plan, and that next year we'll ask for another one because things will have changed and we need to adjust. But I just think, listening to the Finance Committee, I think, do they really think that there's a crystal ball that's out there that can make everything clear for the next 5 years? I don't. I'm ready for surprises. So I'd like to support the plan because I think we need it just for procedural matters. And then we see what falls from the sky and we deal with it as it comes along.
Anything further? Yes, sir.
Marvin Parker, Northwest Harwich. We are discussing a lot of money here, and there's been a lot of good input from people. And I don't know if this is an appropriate question, but from looking here, it seems that Mr. Howell, Don Howell, was the only person that voted no on this on the board. And I don't know if it's appropriate to ask him to explain why, for transparency, so that we can maybe understand his point of view. You would have to tell me if it's appropriate to ask him to step up and do that.
It's up to Mr. Howell if he wants to respond. Apparently he does.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I am not disputing the need for the projects, but as Mr. Kakunis said, the purpose of this whole plan is not for the town necessarily to have a plan. It's for you to be able to plan what your taxes look like over the next 3 to 5 years. I get that you can't tell everything that's going on, but does that mean in your own household you give up the opportunity to make any kind of budget at all because tomorrow may be a problem and forget the whole thing? My problem with this is there was a process, and it worked really well for 20-some-odd years. If you wanted to move something from year 4 to year 1 because the water tower got rusted or whatever, you made an argument. And the townspeople had the right, with a 2/3 vote, to move that from 1 year to a newer year. We jumped that process. And I'm particularly upset that I was involved with the charter change that brought back a capital plan when we only had a capital budget for a few years, which was volatile, changed every year. The fact is that we sent it to legal counsel, and now we're told that the 2/3 doesn't count, even though we actually knew what we wanted and we had it reviewed. So my problem with this is the process. I don't really believe you can get a good conclusion with a bad process, and that's why I voted against it.
Further debate. Gentleman in the middle.
Hi, Steve Bullotta.
I'll encourage people to raise something new. We've been on this for quite a while now, so go ahead, sir.
Steve Bullotta, Pinewood Lane. I have no problem whatsoever with the idea of a capital plan, but this isn't a very good one. I mean, common sense says to go from the current, upcoming fiscal year of 77 million down to 20 million the following year? That big of a drop? And then 4 million the year after that? If this plan is meant to give us an idea of what our costs are going to be in this town and what our taxes are going to be, I wouldn't base any of it on this kind of data. It's simply not done. Common sense says you're not going to have that big of a drop year in and year out across your capital needs. And so I really do thank the people that put the time and effort in, but I agree with the Finance Committee. This is not a good finance document. It's not a realistic forecast. So it was a good attempt. Hopefully we'll get better over time and get closer to what the true capital needs are year in, year out. But this is not a reasonable forecast of what the capital outlay is going to be for the next 5 years, and it's not ready.
Mr. Weiser, and then I've got...
Could we move the question?
Okay, so a motion's been made to terminate debate, move the question, which means terminate debate. It's a non-debatable motion, requires a 3/4 majority to pass. So if it's not unanimous, I'll have to take a standing count. So all those in favor of terminating debate on the motion under Article 15, so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. So I'm going to appoint tellers, and we'll have to take a standing count. I think there's probably a 3/4 majority, but I can't call it orally under the rules. I tell you what, I'll try it one more time. All those in favor of terminating debate under Article 15, so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. I'll have to take a standing count. So do I have some volunteers for tellers? Yes, in the back. Come on up, Richard. Anyone else? I need 4. Yes, sir. Come up. I have 3. Jeff, you want to come up? That'd be great. I've got 4, so I think I'm in good shape. Raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear and affirm that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent on me as a teller. So, you got the floor on this side. Whole floor. Ed, you got this table and then the back bleacher section on the right. Just the back. Yeah. You take no. One person on it. You take it. That's right. Yes, you count your own vote. Okay, so the tellers have been sworn in, and they're prepared to assist me with the count. Again, what we're voting on Article 15, is a motion to terminate debate and then move on to the question. All those in favor of terminating debate on Article 15, please rise and show your voter card. Rise and show your voter card. Thank you. Be a 0. I tried it. Well, I could have had a deaf ear, but I didn't. All these years, I didn't realize. I'll learn. Interesting crowd.
It's going to be the same at the,
Yeah. You're right.
well, the problem is, we really, what we need to do is change the bylaws to go along with the capital plan. You see the debt scale.
Yeah.
Then you'll see the numbers.
Joan? 58. Yeah. It'll be easier though, Joan. It'll be easier. Mr. Waystack?
25.
125? Oh, okay. At least you're coordinated. Mr. Bangs?
63.
63. Mr. Handler?
135.
135. All those in opposition to terminating debate, please rise and show your voter card. All those in opposition. Mr. Waystack, 1. Joan? 2. Mr. Handler? 3. Mr. Bangs? 0. So those in favor of terminating debate, 381. Those in opposition, 6. The motion carries. So we'll now move on to the main motion under Article 15, which is to accept and adopt the plan as printed. All those in favor of that motion to accept and adopt Article 15, so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. No. The motion carries. We're now on Article 16. This is one of the ones where I indicated I would not read the entire article, which means the 16 items that are in the box there. But they're all fully debatable once we get a motion on the floor. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow a sufficient sum of money to fund the items in the table below included in the FY 2024 capital outlay plan and to act fully thereon. Mr. Hughes, no motion. Mr. McCaskill.
Article 16, I move that this article be accepted and adopted and that the sum of $4,906,922 be transferred from free cash for this purpose.
Motions are made and seconded under Article 16 to accept and adopt, and the sum is $4,906,922 to be transferred from free cash for this purpose. That's the same figure that is in your warrant, and that is the total of all 16 projects. Debate? Mr. Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As previously mentioned, we are looking to fund the fiscal year 2024 projects under Articles 16 through 21. Notwithstanding the debate and discussion we just had, you're going to hear more in-depth conversation under Article 17 for the Water Department, under Article 18 for roads, and as the Chair mentioned before, we are not doing an override as in years past. 19, 20, and 21, if memory serves correct, are going to be wastewater, and our water wastewater superintendent is going to speak to those. So the 16 items that you see in the warrant under Article 16 in the table and in the plan itself, these are being funded, recommended to be funded by free cash. I'm trying not to repeat what was said before in the last discussion, but as you can see in there, the largest item there is Ironically, I did the numbering. I didn't want to give it lucky 13, but item number 13 is 204 Sisson Road. As was previously said about how we came to this project, I can assure you, and I would ask the chair of the board to help me for a moment, I neglected to bring up my other informational binder. So what you see the chairman holding up is the informational binder on 204 Sisson Road. Thank you. We did not rehearse this at home. I bring that up because there have been comments that there has not been studies done, that there's not enough information. I became the town administrator under a contract here in February of 2021, and one of the first things I was tasked with from the board is to analyze that building and say what we're going to do. The first thing I did was go through the archives. So this is some of the information that I've been able to compile in a little over 2 years. And these are actions through this body of town meeting. These are actions through the Finance Committee, the Board of Selectmen, and these are actions that date back almost 12 years. What we're looking to do under Article 16 for all of these projects is deemed to be necessary for the programs of the town of Harwich. With specificity on item number 13, there was a statement made that there has been no study. The town funded a study in February of 2014 in anticipation of the school department giving the building back to the town. At that time, and you folks know this better than I because I wasn't even here at that point in town, didn't have the pleasure of living here yet. But as you know, at that time, the concept was, are we going to do housing or some other use there? But within the appraisal, the appraiser, as any good appraiser is going to do, is they took an opportunity to say, we're going to do that analysis for that housing that you've asked us to do. But if for some reason that doesn't go forward, we want to remind you that the highest best use of the middle school or the former middle school is an institution of higher learning. Now, an institution of higher learning is under our use table and our zoning bylaws. It's a municipal operation. So it is not a far leap to say that 204 Sisson Road, which has been since 2016 a municipal building hosting municipal programs and departments. And for those that want to know what the plan is in the future, I will defer to the board here and future boards. But as far as I'm concerned as the town administrator, I anticipate and expect that 204 Sisson Road will remain for use as a municipal building, like all the other municipal buildings that we have. Housing, other uses, that's something for the Board of Selectmen, that's something for articles through town meeting. But in this capital plan, what we're asking for is funds that were identified in 2011 that needed to be done on the building, but the town did not do them. What we're looking to fund under this article for that particular line item, and again, don't want to give short shrift to any of the others, I'll speak to all of them. But there is a portion of money that is impacting upon the facility itself, and that's the recommendation of our facilities people. The other portion, the lesser portion, is to make sure the programs that are there that bring in revenue that is not taxes, that offsets the use of the building, can flourish and can broaden. So that's what we're asking for under Article 16, specifically for 204 Sisson Road. I hesitate to get into the concept of an article that was passed last year because there's a concept of a resolution or a resolve. This town meeting was asked through a citizen petition if the board wanted $75,000 to do a study. And I think the Board of Selectmen at that time did the right thing. They chose not to use the money for a study because this book is filled with studies. And if the question is, what are we going to use it for? The answer has remained the same for this Board of Selectmen and its predecessors. 204 Sisson Road was since 2016 and is expected to be for the foreseeable future a municipal building hosting municipal operations. And to an earlier question and an earlier discussion, how many people that enjoy a lease there are from Harwich? We don't track that. We don't track that at this building, and to my knowledge, we don't track it at any other building. So we are not subsidizing people. We entered into a fair agreement where, in exchange for the use of the room, they give us money. Again, as I've said before, I would urge you to adopt this article. It's an appropriate use of free cash. I will yield on discussion of free cash unless I'm asked, but the amount that we had in free cash is a simple process that occurred year over year, and if you want to compare what Harwich has gotten for free cash to our other communities, both on and off the Cape, everybody saw an increase in free cash. The number one reason for us, we had one of the best summers in history, and people chose to come here and spend their money. So our receipts were far greater than we expected. So that's where free cash comes from. Again, I urge your adoption of Article 16, and I'd be happy to answer any questions as much as possible.
Further debate. Mr. Chori was up.
I move that the main motion be amended to read as follows. I move that this article be accepted and adopted, except the project number 13, 204 Sisson Road, Old Middle School, and its appropriation of $1,982,427 to be deleted, and the sum of $2,924,495 to be transferred from free cash.
Do I hear a second? Okay. So we have a motion to amend the main motion, and the amendment has the effect of deleting project number 13 from those projects that are being approved under the main motion. So it doesn't affect any of the other projects. It affects 13. It seeks to delete the 204 road project and its appropriation of $1,982,247, and it revises downward the number to be transferred from free cash for the balance of the projects to $2,924,495. Mr. Chori, debate on your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'll try to keep my comments brief. There's been a lot of discussion on 204 Sisson tonight. But as has been pointed out, as past chairman of the Finance Committee, I feel it's my responsibility to see that the article that was passed, Article 57, to fund a study in favor of the culture, be implemented. The townspeople spoke. Whether you want to argue it's binding, non-binding, do we have to go through every article tonight and ask you if it's binding, not binding, before we find out next year you decided not to do something? The will of the people last year asked you to do something. Now I'm going to read briefly what that article was. The purpose of this article is to enlist independent people, professional help to objectively determine the best uses along with evaluations, pros, cons, and risks of each option for long-term use of this town asset. The study will also develop a comprehensive business plan specific to the, it says Cultural Center, but 204 Sisson, that provides detailed financial capital assessment needs for 5 to 8 years, organizational, staffing, marketing plans, and make this option physically self-sustaining. This study, again, provides for independent professional business development guidance. I don't want it to be misconstrued that I am not in favor of this building. I am in favor of this building to be used for, as has been spoken, recreational, municipal purposes, cultural purposes that were spelled out. There was over 21 capital requests in that study to put numbers to. I have only seen very briefly a capital study done. We're asking for roughly $2 million for this year's capital to go into a building. We're asking for a fire alarm system. How can you install a fire alarm system when you don't know what that building's being used for? Fire alarm codes have specific uses depending on the use of the building. We can't even put a fire alarm system in there until we know how the building is going to be used. One of the capital items, again, is a generator. The first question a generator company will ask is, what is your load on that building? No one can give a load. Maybe you can, if Sean Libby, our facilities director, can tell me what the load on that building is going to be so he can size a generator, I'll accept Sean's opinion. I trust Sean's opinion, and I don't know if he wants to speak to what he thinks the long-term capital costs are for that building, but I would definitely welcome it. And again, I'm in favor of this building. I use that building practically all winter long. I play pickleball in that building. The director of that building, Kara, I've talked to many times in this building. She's done an excellent job. The only report I have seen has been from her of significant value on the program used for that building, and it's tremendous. She's outlined many, many projects for that building, programs. That's the only physical program, study that I've seen done. That binder may be 4 inches thick, but it's going back 11 years. I have not seen, as what the people called for last year, an enlisted professional study done. And that's what we're asking for here. We agreed as a finance committee last year to not go with the $75,000 in good faith that we would put this study together. Mr. McCaskill was chairman of the board last year, said that there is money available if we needed to hire outside consultants. And I know there's money. The revolving fund in that building is tremendous. It's probably over $300,000. I mean, Kara's done a couple projects, it's dwindled that number down, but there's plenty of money in there to enlist capital studies. I know Mark Kelleher is going to speak to it too a little bit more. I won't get into his comments on what he's going to say. But that's all I'm asking for, is this study to be done and not spend another $2 million on a project we don't know what it's being spent on. We have another project that Articles 27 and 47 later on in the article that's going to be asking for another $1 million for a town building, and we don't have studies. We need facilities, feasibility studies done on this building. One of the selectmen mentioned, we don't do it for these buildings. Well, that's a wrong statement. Every town building should have a feasibility study done on it so that we know, back to the long-term planning. We're coming before the town meeting every year asking for more and more money. And the comment on a study to keep spending level, I've been in this town as a taxpayer for probably 20 years. My taxes are not what they were 20 years ago. They are not level. They are going up and up and up. And we preach that we want an affordable town. We heard one gentleman. People they can't afford to live here. So that's what I'm proposing, to not fund this article until we get that study done. Thank you.
Okay, so just so you're aware, we're on a motion to amend the main motion. And the amendment does not seek to not fund the article. It seeks to not fund one project, number 13. And that's what we're going to talk about and vote on, and then we'll get back to the rest of the projects. Anyone else on the amendment? Selectman Anderson?
I'm not sure why there's so much hate and discontent about 204 Sisson Road. A year ago, when we talked about it, there was the article, I think it's 57, about $75,000 for a study. The other article no one seems to talk about is we had an article in there to fund a new position of our cultural director. When we talked about the warrant article before coming to town meeting, and that was a petition article, the $75,000, we said if we get a cultural director, we won't need to spend $75,000 because we'll have a professional director who will do that for us. In addition to the director of cultural affairs, we have a building facility manager, Sean Libby. We also have a rec director, and his name just went out of my head, but it'll come back. Eric. The three of them went through that building along with our town administrator, and we have a very thorough plan. 1.5 is for the building improvements that were identified, I think Joe said, 10 years ago. And I believe Jeff Handler pointed out in the debate that if we had spent that money over the last 10 years, it would have been $200,000 a year, as we talked earlier, evening it out. But for whatever reason, we didn't spend that money. So this is where we're at now. We need 1.5 to clean up what we didn't do in the past 10 years, and then we need to give our cultural director, Karen McWhinney, about $400,000 to $500,000 to fix the auditorium She's got people that want to bring talent in there that'll bring money in, but we've got to fix the auditorium. So I beg you, do not take that money out.
Further debate? Mark Kelleher from the Finance Committee, and then I'll go to you.
Thank you. Mark Kelleher again, Finance Committee. Thank you to the staff, by the way, that put this meeting together. On Article 16, it's the position of the Finance Committee that this article receives no recommendation pending further information. This is due to the lack of a comprehensive business plan, which includes a professional building needs assessment study. So, voters, the Finance Committee recommends that a comprehensive business plan be contracted for, which includes a professional building needs assessment study, so that future expenses of a fully functioning municipal building is available to make informed decisions on 204 Sisson Road. This was in furtherance of Article 57 from last year's town meeting. The Facility Department has identified the priority needs of the building. However, the Finance Committee believes that the proposed capital expenses over the next 5 years is vastly understated. The needs of this building includes new windows, roofs, heating, would recommend air conditioning, generator, the list goes on. Taxpayers and residents are facing large tax expenses with the upcoming sewer project, plus the connection costs. A building evaluation plan will determine the costs, and a plan to make 204 Sisson Road a modern, functional building, and importantly, to even out capital plan expenses. In your own personal experience, before you undertake a large project at home, don't you want to know what the cost will be and what is the final end use of your project? The town has neither of these items clarified. The Finance Committee is not asking for too much. Most towns use business and capital plans to inform decision-making. It only makes good business sense. Orleans, the Snow Library, Bourne and Sandwich have evaluation plans on their warrants. Chatham has just completed a building evaluation study, 150 pages, on the purchase of the Chatham Health and Swim Club. It identified the present conditions, plus needed short and long-term repairs, along with specific costs. This is what 204 Sisson needs. According to the Cultural Affairs Director, during the hottest days of the summer of 2022, the internal temperature in some areas of the facility reached 98 degrees. There were concerns about respiratory issues for tenants and staff. How or where will the municipal employees work when these conditions exist? Short-term rental events would be limited and would decrease overall rental abilities. As far as the capital plan is concerned, there's nothing planned to at least 2029 on air conditioning. To summarize, a professional building evaluation study would provide options and costs for both long and short-term needs for 204. New technology may be proposed that replaces the proposed new gas furnaces with ductless heat pumps that could provide heating and air conditioning with extensive rebates. The town could then have an energy-efficient, fully functioning municipal building with year-round programming. It's for you, for the taxpayers, to decide for that. Thank you.
Further debate, Joe McCarty.
I just feel like we were told we were going to vote a non-binding vote, and the residents said that they wanted housing. The selectmen chose to go a different way and have an art center. That's great. When I look at figures like $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, there are a lot of ordinary people in Harwich trying to keep their head above water. And having these huge, I don't know what the rent, I've heard rumors about what the rent is at the art center, but I don't feel like that's something I need to support if it can't support itself. When it was passed, we were all told that we were going to get a financial outlook and we were going to get all the plans that would substantiate it being a solid investment. Nothing ever came of it. All we do is sit here at a town meeting and then shrug and walk out and say, oh, did it again. I'm really tired of it. Thank you.
The lady in the middle here. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Salwa Hatum, 7 Old Post Road, East Harwich, Massachusetts. I'm a graduate of Rhode Island School of Design, and I want to stand up for this budget. First of all, for number line 13, 204 Sisson Road, the 204 Sisson, is being supported by free money, if I understood correctly, right? This is being paid for by free money, is that correct?
Available funds.
No, you said that because...
Free cash is what it's called.
Free cash, all right. I thought that came from all the tourists that came in here, you said, over the summer. It was such a strong
A
summer.
substantial portion of it is local receipts, yes.
Okay. Now, when you have a cultural center that is filled to capacity, because I went in there one day to see what was going on, and every single room available for artists was filled, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't step away from the microphone. So every room is occupied. That means every room is being rented and paid for. You own a house, you need repairs, pay for the repairs. If you let it sit, you let it go longer, you will have more expensive repairs to cover. That's what I understand 13 to be all about. So don't strike it, cover it now, and deal with it. If you want to deal with the windows first, that'll help to keep the heat in, or the heat out, heat in winter, heat out in summer. And if you have to take care of your boiler, you take care of it. And all the other items. So as a resident from Rhode Island School of Design, do I stay in Harwich and produce my artwork here? Or do I just move up to Provincetown, where it's happening because it's the longest living artist community in the United States of America? And that's why people come to Cape Cod, because of its culture. If you have a theater that's not being used for music and theater and teaching the kids that come here in the summertime, you're missing out on income opportunities. That's not my lack of vision, but your lack of vision. That building you own, it's yours, it's ours. Invest in it, and it will pay back over and over and over again. There are so many women in that building. Harwich could actually produce a book about them and sell it to the tourists. Come and see the women artists at the 204 Sisson and all the others that are there with them. That's all I have to say.
Young lady over here.
Thank you for the young lady, Mr. Moderator. Bernadette Waystack, Harwich Port. I want to correct a previous speaker. The Board of Selectmen did not decide summarily to change it to an experimental cultural center. There were 2 committees that were formed and attempted to look into housing, into affordable housing at that spot, and it never came. And to the point the last speaker touched upon, deferred maintenance. I moved here almost 40 years ago, and I clearly remember, even though my own children weren't old enough to go to school yet, that within about a year or 2 of my coming to town, about 6 weeks or less before the school year ended, the kids at Harwich Middle School had to be shunted out to Holy Trinity and to Harwich High to finish out their school year because Harwich Middle School had to be condemned because of years of deferred maintenance. This is the second time in less than 40 years we're looking at that again. The Monomoy School District was established officially in 2012, and in June of 2014, we were all told, pack everything up, and we were out of there, and I say we because I taught in that building for 20 years. We left the building in 2014, so before that time and since that time, all those years, it falls to us as the town. It was in our care and custody, it's ours. We made the decision to own it, we decided to keep it. We need to take care of it. And this is the right time to invest in it.
Further debate? I've got this lady, and then if you have a question. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Elizabeth Harder, Pleasant Lake. I just have two things about this. One, I think if you poll most people in this room, we're all in favor of the Cultural Center. I mean, it's one of the keystones of the new cultural district that we're getting this weekend, and we're one of the only towns in Massachusetts to have two cultural districts. That's very important for Harwich. It's not that we're against it, Mary. It's not that we have this hate for it. It's that plans are important. I think everyone can agree there's no point in spending over $500,000 to refurbish an auditorium that no one is going to sit in if there's no air conditioning. You're not going to be able to rent that auditorium in August. You know, there's no way. You have to pick what you're going to fix first. You have to make it cost effective, and you have to lay out the plan. I know you don't like plans. We got to have a plan. Everybody said it at the last article. They said it at this one, and they're going to say it in future articles. It's not a lack of support for the Cultural Center at all. Everybody, I think, likes the Cultural Center. In fact, I hear a lot of people worrying that it's now being called a municipal building and not a cultural center, because that doesn't guarantee it's always going to be a cultural center. And that makes me nervous too. So I just think I'm asking you all to take this out of the capital budget this year until the townspeople, all the townspeople, feel confident that we are using this asset, because it is a town asset, but let's make sure we're using it correctly. Thank you.
Further debate, Selectman Kavanaugh. We're still on Mr. Churi's motion to amend, which is to delete Project 13 from the article.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I think it's important to make some clarifications, and I thank Elizabeth for bringing up the word plan, because going back to originally when we talked about the capital plan in our debate earlier, it's interesting to me that the Capital Outlay Committee and the Board of Selectmen agree that the capital plan is a plan. It's a flexible, fluid plan. It can change. To the other speaker, I wish I recalled your name, you made the argument exactly the way we see it, which is every year there are different items that come up. There was no way to predict COVID. There's no way to know that DEP wants to change the rules on us from a 40-year to a 20-year plan in terms of financing wastewater. We have to address the issues that we're dealing with that are the most important. That's what we were elected to do. So I'd also like to clarify a couple comments made by our Finance Committee in asking us for a business plan. This building is a municipal building. It has always been a municipal building. It was a school. It was a high school. I believe you went to the high school. My kids went to the middle school. It didn't have air conditioning then either. And ultimately, you're not seeing that. We're not asking for that right now because that is not what we wanted, as our chair spoke to. So going back to asking us to nix this part of the article, which is line item 13, makes no sense after all the time and effort that has been put into this in assessment. I find it also interesting that this is the only building that the Finance Committee and others who say they support this building consistently want us to come up with a business plan, yet no other building in town has a business plan. I also heard the Finance Committee talk to the fact that once repairs were made, that some of the monies coming in should go back into the general fund to repay. We don't do that with any other building. So to consistently say you support the building, yet you target the building, in this building, and I want to clarify, there are artists in there. We have people doing futsal, pickleball. We have theater use. We have the Cranberry Festival. All of these things are different elements of our community participating in that building. Kids playing futsal, Cranberry Festival goers for the concerts, theater, artists of all types. And if you haven't been there, you should go in and walk through and see what's going on in there and what's thriving. We have 2 cultural districts that we've gotten grants for. So funny enough, we're hearing about business plans, and we're being told how Chatham assessed Chatham Health Club. Chatham Health Club is not owned by the town of Chatham. It was assessing the health club to see if it would buy it for the pool. So that is comparing apples to oranges. We are talking about a building that this town owns. It is an asset. I don't think there's anybody in this audience that thinks that we could rebuild that building for $2 to $3 million. We are lucky to have that asset. The fact, as Chairman Anderson made earlier, the fact that people didn't put money into the building when it was first turned over, we're trying to address those issues now. This should not be taken out of the capital plan. Thank you.
We're still on the motion to amend. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Marilyn Schlansky. I live on Glenwood Drive. I'm urging you to keep that article in the capital plan. Let me tell you a little bit about cultural districts. We have, the town of Harwich and Harwichport has achieved the equivalence of a gold medal in the Olympics. There are 4 counties or towns in the state of Massachusetts that have been granted a cultural district. This is a very rare thing. And the other thing is, being granted a cultural district often turns into the ability to apply for grants and money. This is something that, are you saying that you can't hear me? Okay. Is this better? Okay. Being a cultural district allows you to apply for grants to bring money into the, for the facility, for the programs in the facility. I just want to read a definition of what cultural districts are. And I know this because I have applied for grants from the Massachusetts Cultural Council and have gotten them for another organization that I belong to. And it's a considerable amount of money that's on the table and can be applied for from many, many different aspects of what goes on in a cultural center. So let me tell you what a cultural district is. It was launched in 2011 by an act of the state legislature. Cultural districts drive economic growth, strengthen our distinctive local character, and improve the quality of life of families across Massachusetts. By supporting arts, humanities, and science organizations, cultural districts attract tourists and entrepreneurs, which in turn help communities foster their cultural sector and expand their tax base, and that benefits everyone. And if you're thinking of attracting more people to Harwich and Harwichport, and when I went down to Harwichport this summer, I mean, you could barely move in the street. It was like Chatham, and you know, it was great to see, and it's great to see all the new businesses opening up there, and all the people coming here. But there people come here for, also for theater, and for concerts, and for music groups, and for all sorts of exhibitions, and to have a place that this is possible to mount these things is very precious and should be maintained and should be supported. Thank you.
Gentleman to my right's been standing for a while.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Good evening, neighbors. My name is Michael Rudden. I live in East Harwich. I stand in support of Article 16, especially line 13, related to the capital improvements for the 204, albeit with mixed emotions. As a certified architect specializing in educational facilities, I can see the condition of the 1937-year-old facility that has not been substantially upgraded for 33 years. I can also imagine the financial resources that will be needed to upgrade and maintain it. We do need a plan. I'm also the president of the Guild of Harwich Artists, which has artists in the 204 studio. I share the vision of the 204 as a compelling destination that anchors our town's growing creative economy. You might be surprised that the creative sector delivers over $27 billion of value to our state. At last year's town meeting, we as voters approved a petition article to study the ways to make the 204 financially self-sustaining. This is a fair request. With the right combination of uses, including arts and cultural programs, recreational and appropriate municipal offices, achieving a financial self-sustaining facility is possible. A key to this effort is boosting rental revenue from the arts and cultural events and performances. Cultural Affairs Director Cara Winnie has made great strides toward increasing programs and events at the 204, as evidenced by the current Art Week celebrations that are happening. Considering that the building was dormant for 2 years due to COVID restrictions, Cara's come a long way, and she's just getting started. Achieving the shared goal of financial self-sustaining facility, regardless of the final balance of uses, requires improving the 72,000 gross square foot building infrastructure now, regardless of its use. Upgrading the 220-seat auditorium and former library space that can accommodate groups up to 200 opens the door to viable event rental incomes to allow us to achieve a self-sustaining goal. In conclusion, I recommend that we consider the 2024 outlay capital plan expenditures for the 204, which is $1.9 million, albeit 40% of next year's, is only projected to be 3% of the 5-year capital plan. In conclusion, I recommend we also implore the town to first complete the 5-year capital plan as it becomes available, and I understand why some of those zeros are there. And 2, bring forth a financially self-sustaining plan for the building for the 204 that includes stakeholder use. So in summary, we can do both. We can have a plan for the building that makes it sustainable, but let's invest now in an asset that is deteriorating before our very eyes so that we can begin to generate the revenue that will achieve that mutual goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Weiser.
Thank you to the previous speaker. Bob Weiser, I live on 6 Birch Drive, and I am the music director of the Harwich Cranberry Festival, among other things. And first of all, whoever was saying that people won't sit in that auditorium because it's hot, well, they're right, it is hot, but it's better than not having concerts in Harwich at all. And as the person who's produced the largest number of concerts in that venue, as part of an organization that had the vision to say this building can't be used for housing, apparently, therefore let's find another way to demonstrate that it serves a useful purpose for our community. And we encourage the select board to designate it as a cultural facility. We started presenting events there, and we've continued to present events there because it is a town-owned facility that needs to be used. Bulldozing it is not a cost-effective solution. And there are people here, whether they want to admit it or not, who have advocated for that in the past, some of whom have been up at these microphones speaking as if they have supported the cultural center. Maybe now people play pickleball there, but other people make art there, other people make music there, other people do dance there and make theater there, and the town is in desperate need of additional office spaces, which the town administrator apparently intends to move in there as well. So the facility is there. Why would we allow it to continue to deteriorate after all of these years? What is in our minds that makes us think that we should take this item out of the budget for this year and let it run down some more? That is infinitely stupid, in my opinion. Let's put this amendment to bed. Let's get on with a discussion about all of the items that are in front of us on the budget and have real discussions, not about things that the voters have consistently voted in favor of this cultural facility when it's come up on this floor. Nobody has voted in favor of getting rid of this facility. People have always voted in favor of finding a useful use for it. We have found those useful uses for it. Now let's fix it. Yes, I would love air conditioning, but that isn't happening this year. Let's fix the roof and do the other stuff in the meantime while we get grants from the Mass Cultural Council for facility renovations for our cultural facility. Thank you.
So we're still on the motion to amend. I see Karen Mawini. I'm not sure you're a resident here. You are the cultural director. Are you asking for permission to address the meeting?
Yes, I am.
Anybody object? This is our cultural director. Hearing none, the floor is yours. Let's try and be brief. It's late. We've got a lot of work to do, so we need to move this on to a vote. Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And I will be brief because, honestly, everybody has said a whole lot tonight, and a lot of that is speculation. And I take quite offense to the fact that no, quote-unquote, professional study has been done, because that is dismissive to every single department head in the town of Harwich that has invested countless hours underneath the command of the town administrator since January of 2022. Prior to my hire, yes. So to say that no professional study has been done is absolutely a straight offense to every department head who has spent their payroll hours to complete studies to further define what each area has available for use. Part of that was my action guide that has been called out this evening that was presented to the Board of Selectmen on March 6th. And during that presentation, I also gave the laid out mission and vision of the 204 Cultural Arts Municipal Building. And I am going to read it so that everybody is informed. The 204 Cultural Arts Municipal Building envisions a vibrant, connected community engaged in discovering, exploring, and creating. The supportive power, extended family, in all of its definitions is embraced, as is the belief that the spirit and energy of community and our participation in it empowers and transforms. The heartbeat of, yes, the Harwich Cultural Districts, which is the reason we got this designation, was the 204. The 204 nurtures the voices of artists and creatives, works to cultivate leaders who lift up our people, and work to attract individuals and organizations, to provide community programs and resources that will drive the community forward. The warmth, the enthusiasm, and unity of our cultural hub echo throughout Harwich and serves as an example of inclusion, art making, kinship, and cultural expressions. The 204 is a place where art happens, business happens, life happens, and our community grows. It starts a dialogue, and our social infrastructure is fostered. So that is the vision of 204 Sisson. It has been the vision since I started, when I was asked to start developing plans. We have not hidden anything. In order for us to operate annually, we are looking at $140,000 a year in overhead. That's all operational cost. We provide $160,000 in revenue to support that. So we have a surplus every year that rolls over. All of that revenue pays for our heat, pays for us to be able to get the dumpster dumped, pays for our custodial staff. We have no expense currently to the taxpayer for that model. Our request that we are looking for is so that we don't do what the town of Harwich did in 1964 when they voted for Bell's Neck Conservation Land and they voted to tear down the Exchange Building. Those that can remember that time, I've talked to, and they said it was one of the biggest regrets at that time. It had a theater. It had government offices. It had many benefits that echo exactly what we have at the 204. So why are we going to allow history to repeat itself? If you allow us to move forward, we can enhance our programs. We do operate 365 days a year, even in the heat. It is hot, absolutely. We don't not rent out the space. If someone wants to use it, we tell them it's gonna be hot. And they're okay with it. We rent it, they come, they produce programs, from dance classes to theaters to concerts, you name it. It's happening. So I urge you to pay more attention, please, and to please not do this to the 204. Because yes, pickleball will even be affected because the school building that we want to keep calling it is going to be closed. So I urge and I ask to enhance your creative quality of life, to give you an opportunity as the community, give us a chance to fix what's broken and give you what you deserve, because we are here for you, the community of Harwich. And that is why we have our cultural district designations, and that's why I'm still here today. And everyone asks me all the time, oh, you're still here? I'm not going anywhere, and I'm here for the fight. So I thank you, Mr. Moderator, for the time.
Thank you. Gentleman over here on my right.
Charles Gruska, 6 Teaberry Ave, Harwich. I think there are tremendous things going on at 204 Sisson. I think we have a tremendous cultural director. Town did a great job in its hiring that process. For me, this item has a deeper concern or a different concern that really hasn't come up quite yet. When I moved here in 2015, I moved because I loved Harwich from 40 years of experience being here part-time. I moved, one of the most exciting things for me moving here was to be able to participate in town meeting form of government. Always considered it to be the ultimate form of democratic government. And since moving here, I have attended every town meeting. I've been through every article, I've been through every vote. And I was here last year it was about 20 minutes to midnight when Article 57 was debated on the second night of town meeting. And it was debated and it was voted on. There was a change at the last minute where there was $75,000 that in the original article to do a professional outside study for the use of the building. We were assured that there was a change of that because there was plenty of talent within town to do that. I didn't really like that idea because what I shared at last town meeting was if we had an outside professional study, I thought there would be more trust in the outcome of that study because it was obvious to me that it was such an emotional item. There was strong feelings on both sides of the issue, but that did not pass. But what did pass was a study, as was described by Mr. Chori, as was described by Mr. Kelleher from the Finance Committee, and their concerns are expressed in tonight's warrant. I'm very disappointed that what was voted at the last town meeting was not carried out. I haven't seen that carried out any more than the Finance Committee has seen that, any more than Mr. Chori has seen that. If it had been carried out tonight, instead of all of this time being spent debating this amendment to this issue, we'd be looking at that study, its outcomes and recommendations, voting on it, and moving ahead with all the plans for that building. So I'm concerned, I don't know how to deal with this, because for me to raise my objection that I think town meeting government's being compromised here, because if we can't count on what decisions we make at this meeting, why aren't we just all home watching the Celtics tonight? You know, we've got to depend on that. And I don't know how to do that except to vote against this article. I favor what's in the article for Sisson Road, but there's a bigger issue, and that's town government, town meeting government, and how it's carried out in the community. So I am going to support this amendment. Hope that what happens is that it passes and immediately the study is done, and as soon as possible it's completed, brought back at a special town meeting so we could vote the recommendations of that study fund it and move forward and continue the great stuff that's going on at 204 Sisson Road, but maintain integrity of town meeting form of government. Otherwise, let's just go to a mayor, city council form of government. We'll stay home and watch TV and let those people make the decisions for us based on whatever input we give them without a chance to debate and vote. One man, one vote, as is the beauty of town meeting government. Thank you.
So we have a motion before us, which is a motion to amend. Anything further, anything new on the motion to amend? Gentleman in the middle.
Stan Pastuzak, 21 Norris Drive. I'd just like to move the previous question.
Okay, so we have a motion to move the question, which would mean to terminate debate on the amendment. It's non-debatable, requires a 3/4 majority to pass. All those in favor of terminating debate on the amendment, so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. We're now going to move to a vote on Mr. Chori's amendment. And it's been a while, so let me read it to you again. We had a main motion to accept and adopt the entire article, all 16 projects. Mr. Chori's motion to amend reads as follows. I move this article be accepted and adopted, except that project number 13, 204 Sisson Road, Old Middle School, and its appropriation of $1,982,427 be deleted, and that the sum of $2,924,495 be transferred from free cash for this purpose. All those in favor of that amendment so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. The amendment fails. So we're now back to the main motion on Article 16, which is to accept and adopt, as printed in the warrant, with the total amount to be transferred from free cash, and I'll give you that amount again, of $4,906,922. Is there any further debate? Yes, sir.
Quick one, if I may. Peter DeBacher, Pleasant Lake. The amount that we're spending is over $4.6 million. The thing that concerns me a little bit, and I hope it's an appropriate point that I'm trying to make here, that we seem to be talking $2 million for item 13, I believe it was. I just want to remind people, for that amount, we could fund the next 7 items on the agenda. So it is a matter of opportunity cost. This one item that we discussed previously constitutes just about half of what you're voting on in your next vote. But for that amount, for half of that amount, you could fund the next 7 articles.
Any further debate on the main motion? Yes, ma'am.
Noreen Donahue, Headwaters, speaking on my own behalf, not representing any board or committee. I have a simple technical question, and it's on number 13. For context, I did ask this question in January at a Board of Selectmen's meeting, and I also asked it in March at a Finance Committee meeting, and at neither of those occasions did I receive an answer, or a complete answer, or a partial answer. For context, we became designated a green community 5 or 6 years ago. We went through many different processes to do that, a lot of work by a lot of different departments. About 3 or 4 years ago, as a result of that, we got close to $300,000 reduction on our boiler in our library. In addition to that, a year ago, we got several hundred thousand off of our boiler for our community center. So my only question, despite all the emotion about this, is for the boiler in the cultural center, did it go through the Green Communities process? Was it denied? Is it going to go through the Green Communities process? You know, if you look at the Green Communities program, the money for boilers comes out pretty readily. I just want to know if it went through that process or if it's going to go through that process before we purchase it. Thank you.
Can anybody respond to that, the boiler, as to whether it's planned that the boiler replacement at 204 Sisson Road is going to go through the Green Communities process, or already has? Mr. Powers?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'd like to defer time to our facilities manager, Sean Libby, coming to the microphone. He is not a resident and voter, so...
Any objection to Mr. Libby answering that specific question? Hearing none, Mr. Libby.
Yes, I can answer that question directly. That we did not apply for that grant because you have to complete a grant before you can apply for another grant. Additionally, that building was not on the Green Communities plan at the time of our application. We have priorities that we have to go through in that order. Currently, we are doing the boiler project here starting tomorrow. Once we complete that, we'll be eligible to apply for another grant, but until then, we have to complete both the boiler and the air conditioning project.
Do you have a follow-up, ma'am?
Real quick one. So is it still possible with that timing that you just laid out, if we finish this and are able to apply for that reduction before the purchase of the boiler in the cultural center?
Mr. Libby?
We experienced a boiler that cracked last year in May of 22. We are down to one boiler. It is critical failure. If we do not replace it, I don't think the boiler that's running now will run a couple of years. The applications for the grants are only in the fall and the spring, and they are approved roughly 3 months after application.
Just to finish, that's a very reasonable answer. I just don't understand why I have to ask these things at town meeting when I stand at other meetings and ask them for 6 months in advance every year.
Well, I'm happy we got you your answer. Gentleman in the middle.
Robert Thomason, Oliver Snow Road. My question is about number 2, engines and other fire equipment.
Yes.
$350,000 for a mini pumper. And if I remember right, last year we spent a lot of money for something called a quint, which apparently didn't work out. It was too big a piece of equipment to be used in the town. I'm not sure what they did with it, and I wonder how these decisions are made, whether we really need a mini pumper. Apparently the quint was supposed to take care of that last year. If anyone can...
Anybody want to respond to Chief? Question about the need for the mini pumper and its relationship to the quint.
Sure. Good evening, Chief LeBlanc. The mini pumper is a different project. The quint is in service, went in service earlier this year. It's working fine. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. We had 2 forestry vehicles. One was a military surplus that we have since given to Marion Fire. It was a government surplus vehicle. It had to go back into that program. We have another forestry vehicle that currently is in service, but getting along in years, and it's going to need to be replaced. The mini pumper replaces both of those with a more capable vehicle that will be able to assist us both in wildland fires as well as small fires, car fires, motor vehicle accidents, that type of thing, where we don't have to take a full-size engine to those type of calls.
Thank you, Chief. Any further debate on the motion under the article? It looks like you're ready for a vote. And so the motion on Article 16 is accept and adopt all 16 projects, and that the total of $4,906,922 be transferred from free cash for this purpose. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Article 17. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow a sufficient sum of money to fund the items in the table below, included in the FY 2024 capital outlay plan, and to act fully thereon. Mr. Hughes?
I move that this article be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant, and further that the sum of $300,000 be transferred from Article 21 of the 2022 annual town meeting, and further that $475,000 be transferred from the Water Enterprise Fund retained earnings for this purpose.
Is that total still? Yes, 775. So the motion under Article 17 is accept and adopt. The $775,000 is listed in your warrant is achieved through 2 purposes. One's a transfer of $300,000 from Article 21 of the 2022 annual town meeting, and then the $475,000 to be transferred from the Water Enterprise Fund retained earnings. Is there any debate? Hearing none, I'll put the matter to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Article 18. See if the town will vote to appropriate a sufficient sum of money in Chapter 90 funds to fund the roads maintenance plan and FY 2024 capital outlay plan and to act fully thereon. Mr. Hughes.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted and that the sum of $700,000 be appropriated from Chapter 90 funds for this purpose.
Motion under Article 18 is accept and adopt. The sum is $700,000. It's proposed to be appropriated from Chapter 90 funds for this purpose. Any debate? Hearing none, I'll put the matter to a vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 18 so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Article 19. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow a sum of money for the design, permitting, and construction of a dry sewer pipe along Route 28, including any and all of the costs incidental and related thereto, provided that any borrowing authorized hereunder shall be contingent upon the passage of a Prop 2.5 debt exclusion vote and to act fully thereon. Mr. Hughes.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted and that the town appropriate the sum of $6,500,000 for the design, permitting, and construction of a dry sewer pipe along Route 28, including any and all other costs incidentally related thereto, that to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum and to issue bonds and notes to the town, therefore, pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44, Sections 7 and 8, or any other enabling authority, provided that any borrowing authorized hereunder shall be contingent on the passage of Prop 2.5 debt exclusion vote.
Okay, the motion under Article 19 is accept and adopt. It's proposing an appropriation of $6,500,000 as indicated in your warrant. It's proposed to be borrowed for this purpose. And it also is subject to a Prop 2.5 ballot question to debt exclude the vote, the borrowing. Any debate on the main motion? Yes, sir.
Hi, Chris Harris, Bank Street. I'm not in favor of the motion. First of all, I want to thank everybody. I mean, there's a lot of great work in all of this information, and I appreciate it. I just have to come back to looking at things long term and raising taxes on us is just not what we need to keep doing. We're going to keep losing people. There's going to be we're restricting our economy. That's basically what we're doing. We did it with the rental tax last fall or whenever that was passed. And I think I hate to be gloomy, but I think that's what you're asking us. You're asking for this community. You're asking, we want all these nice arts programs and everything, but with the economy going down, because of what we're trying to do, we're trying to deflate with increasing taxes and spending lots of money. It's just not going to work out. You're going to continue losing people. And you're going to answer your housing problem because you're not going to need housing or workforce housing because nobody can afford it.
Any further debate on the motion under Article 19? Mr. Otto? You got to speak right into that microphone.
Patrick Otten.
That's better, thank you.
This, along with Article 21, both ask for a debt exclusion to Prop 2.5. We need to understand why it is we live here. If we don't pursue sewering, if we don't take care of our ponds, our lakes, our embayments, and our waters, nobody will be living here. We have to pay the cost because we do live here. So it's not a matter about how much money is it going to be. It's going to be a lot, and it's going to be a lot because this is where we live, and we need to take care of where it is the waters around us. So I don't agree with the gentleman that just spoke saying it's too expensive. It should have been done 50 years ago. Now, finally, we're at the point where we can address it and move forward on sewering and taking care of our waters. Thank you.
Any further debate? Yes, sir. Mr. McCordy.
I didn't want to get up but I have to disagree with my good friend Patrick. Sewer is not the only option we've had, and there's many ways you can implement sewer without getting into the details. But my concern has always been the overdevelopment of the Cape, and that's what has led to the eutrophication in the water and what has put us into a jam where we need to do something about cleaning that water up. And that never gets addressed. So I don't think people should be led down this road where we have to believe that big industry is our only savior. There are many things we could do, and one of those would be to look at the real issues driving the degradation of the environment. It's not just nitrogen. That's a reductive logic. And so I just don't want people to feel like they're cornered into this box.
Any further debate on the motion under Article 19? Yes, sir.
Dan Pelletier, Water Wastewater Superintendent.
Yes.
So I just wanted to point out for this one, as well as for Article 21, the town is...
Dan, hold on one second. I forgot you were not a resident. He's our wastewater superintendent. Any objection to him addressing this article? Hearing none. Go ahead, Dan.
All right, thank you. So this one, as well as Article 21, I just want to lay out some of the principal forgiveness and opportunities that the town does have with respect to these projects. I know they're an incredible amount of money, but we're also looking at an incredible savings, especially today. So we're looking at a 0% loan over 30 years, as well as principal forgiveness for in the neighborhood of 13 to 35%. So we're looking at a significant reduction in the capital costs for these projects for the Route 28 one as well as East Harwich. In addition, when we look at Route 28, we're also getting considerable savings by partnering with Mass DOT. So they're going to be picking up the paving for this project, which is a huge portion of the cost. We're actually just paying really for the pipe and its installation. So there's really no better time and no more efficient time to do this work.
Thank you. Any further debate? Looks like you're ready for a vote on the motion under Article 19. We have a borrowing, so it requires a 2/3 majority to pass. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. The chair rules that it got the necessary 2/3 majority and passes. Article 20. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow a sum of money to complete the design, permitting, and construction of the Route 28 water main replacement project, including any and all of the costs incidental and related thereto, and to act fully thereon. Mr. Hughes.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted, and that the town appropriate the sum of $17,500,000 to complete the design, permitting, and construction of the Route 28 water main replacement project, including any and all costs incidental and related thereto, that to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum and to issue bonds and notes of the town thereof pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44, Sections 7 and 8, or any other enabling authority.
Motion's been made and seconded under Article 20. The appropriation is $17,500,000, and it's proposed to be borrowed, and it's also subject to a ballot question to debt exclude the borrowing. I'm sorry? Okay. I stand corrected. The town administrator has pointed out to me there is not a debt exclusion. There's no debt exclusion needed in this particular borrowing. Still $17.5 million, still a borrowing, still requires a 2/3 majority to pass. Is there any debate? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Article 21. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow a sum of money to implement Phase 3 and portions of Phase 8 of the Town Harwich Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan, CWMP, approved by the Massachusetts Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs, in a Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act certificate dated May 13, 2016, consisting of the design, permitting, and construction of sewers in the Pleasant Bay watershed, including any and all of the costs incidental and related thereto, and provided any borrowing authorized hereunder shall be contingent upon the passage of a Proposition 2.5 debt exclusion vote. Mr. Hughes.
I move that the article be accepted and adopted, and that the sum of $50 million be appropriated to implement Phase 3 and portions of Phase 8 of the Town of Harwich Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan, approved by the Massachusetts Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs in a Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act certificate dated May 13, 2016, consisting of the design, permitting, and construction of sewers in the Pleasant Bay watershed, including any and all other costs incidental and related thereto, that to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum and to issue bonds and notes of the town, therefore pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44, Sections 7 and 8, and General Laws, Chapter 29C, or any other enabling authority, provided that any borrowing authorized hereunder shall be contingent on the passage of a Prop 2.5 debt exclusion vote.
Motion's been made and seconded under Article 21. It's accept and adopt. The sum is $50 million. It's proposed to be borrowed, and it is subject to a Prop 2.5 debt exclusion ballot question. Debate on Article 21. Mr. Otter.
Yeah, hello again, Patrick Otten. I'm totally in favor of this proposition, so I'm going to vote yes, but I need to have an understanding of what it means for me as a taxpayer. Just what does $50 million over the next 30 years do to my tax bill, which increases yearly 2.5%? This is an increase on top of that 2.5%. Can you give me some figures and numbers what every tax property owner in the town of Harwich will be paying yearly to pay for this? And I'm not looking for the, maybe a 30% reduction, maybe a 0% loan. Just tell me the $50 million so I have that figure in my head. Thank you.
Dan, you want to Pelletier? Again, he's our superintendent, not a resident, but I'm not hearing any objection, Dan, to you trying to respond to that question.
Yeah, just so I understand Patrick's question correctly, are you talking about the actual debt payment for the $50 million loan? Or the actual cost to the homeowner? All right, so the cost to the homeowner, I did prepare a table on the annual tax impact that ranges from in $100,000 increments, but for town meeting tonight, I'll just go with the average home, which, believe it or not, is currently valued at $788,000 is the average home price in Harwich. So for a person having that home value, the annual tax increase, and I'm going to give you a range because we have varying forgiveness options. The best case scenario would be $123 a year, and the worst case scenario would be about $165 a year. And again, that's for a $788,000 property.
Any, yeah, is that, you got
I was just saying I find that to be acceptable. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. Any further debate under the motion? Excuse me, under Article 21. Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. I rule that it got the necessary two-thirds majority and passes. Article 22. See if the town will vote to appropriate from Community Preservation Act funds $166,650 from FY 2022 undesignated fund balance to fund the payment of the Land Bank debt service and to act fully thereon by request of the CPA. Mr. Hughes.
That true? Okay. Is that true? I would ask.
Give us just one moment.
Yes. Yep, and so if you look in the motions book under 4, there's a reference there. John identified.
Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 22 be indefinitely postponed.
It's been moved and seconded that Article 22 be indefinitely postponed. Mr. Hughes.
It's noted here that explanation on Article 4 way back when.
That was the operating budget.
Right, indicated this article is not necessary if Article 4 is adopted as moved. If you remember back in Article 4, we talked about this very item. So Article 4 passed, this one's not required.
So we don't need this transfer in order to pay off the land bank debt. It was taken care of under Article 4. Any debate on the main motion to indefinitely postpone? Hearing none, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of indefinite postponement so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. The article is indefinitely postponed. So we're now going to move on to the Community Preservation Act articles. First one is Article 23. See if the town will vote to appropriate or reserve for future appropriation the following sums of money from FY 2024 estimated annual revenues of the Harwich Community Preservation Act Fund as required by General Laws Chapter 44, 44 and Chapter 149, Section 298 of the Acts of 2004 as follows. And then as I indicated in the opening tonight, I was not going to read all of those. Hopefully you have. And there's a chart that shows the appropriations that are being proposed under this article from the revenues coming into CPA. Mr. Hughes. Yep. Motion first.
Okay, thank you. I move that Article 23 be accepted and adopted and that a sum of $50,000 be appropriated from FY 2024 estimated annual revenue for the administrative expenses of the Community Preservation Committee.
So the motion is that this article be accepted and adopted, which authorizes the appropriation to reserves, and that the sum of $50,000 be appropriated from the 2024 estimated annual revenue for administrative expenses of the Community Preservation Committee. Before I go to debate, I'm going to go to the Community Preservation Committee to get their recommendation to town meeting as is required. Is Mary Maslowski here? There she is. Mary, the Community Preservation Report.
Good evening, Mary Maslowski. I'm the Planning Board Representative to the CPC. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of David Nixon, our chairman, who is unable to be present. Quick report to town meeting. The Town of Harwich adopted the Community Preservation Act modified to accommodate the replacement of the so-called land bank effective beginning July 1st, 2005. The primary source of revenue for the Community Preservation Fund is a property tax surcharge of 3% that is assessed on each parcel of taxable real estate within the community. The other major sources of revenue for this fund are distributions from the Massachusetts Community Preservation Trust Fund and interest revenue. Community Preservation Fund may be appropriated and spent for certain open space, historic resources, recreation, and community housing purposes. Our committee is comprised of 9 members, 2 selectmen appointees, and representatives from the following areas, 1 each, of the Housing Committee, the Housing Authority, Recreation, Historic District and Historical Commission, Open Space and Real Estate, Conservation Commission, and Planning Board. In the course of the review of this year's applications, the committee held 9 meetings. For the 2023 annual town meeting, the Harwich Community Preservation Committee voted to send and recommend 11 projects for funding approval. 1 open space project, which is Bell's Neck Herring River Land. 2 community housing projects, funding the Harwich Affordable Housing Trust and the Lower Cape Housing Institute. 3 historic preservation projects, which included Berks Academy Museum renovations, the War Memorials Project, and the preservation of 203 Bank Street, which is the old fire station, and 5 recreation projects, the Oak Street Bike Path crossing lights, senior softball field restrooms, resurfacing the courts at Brooks Park, additional funding for Sand Pond Restroom Project, and the Skinnequit Pond Remediation Project.
Thank you, Mary. She read in the recommendation of the CPC for all of the CPC articles, so we'll not have to have a report on every single one, but we're going to vote on them separately. And so right now, we're on number 23, which is the housekeeping expenses, the $50,000 for their annual administrative expenses. Any debate on Article 23? Hearing none, we'll put that one to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It passes unanimously. Article 24. See if the town will vote to appropriate Community Preservation Act funds $125,000 from the Open Space Reserve to fund the Bells Neck Herring Road River Land Preservation Project. Any funds left unspent from this article are to be returned to the Community Preservation Act Fund, Open Space Reserve, and act fully thereon. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 24 be accepted and adopted, and that the sum of $125,000 be appropriated from the Open Space Reserve for the purpose of this article.
Article 24, motion accept and adopt, and the sum is $125,000 to be appropriated from Open Space Reserve. Is there any debate? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 24, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Article 25. See if the town will vote to appropriate from Community Preservation Act funds $500,000 with $14,351.51 from the undesignated reserves, $210,000 from Community Housing Reserve, $84,448.49 from the estimated revenue undesignated reserve, and $191,200 from the 2024 estimated revenue Community Housing Reserve to fund the Affordable Housing Trust and to act fully thereon. The total is $500,000. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 25 be accepted and adopted, and that the sum of $14,351.51 be appropriated from the undesignated fund balance, that the sum of $210,000 be appropriated from the Community Housing Reserve, that the sum of $84,448.49 be appropriated from the FY 2024 estimated annual revenue, and that the sum of $191,200 be appropriated from the estimated annual revenue Community Housing Reserve for a total appropriation of $500,000 for the purpose of this article.
Okay, thank you. So the motion under Article 25, as you heard it, I'm not going to reread it again. It parrots the article. And all of the various transfers total $500,000, all pegged to go to the Affordable Housing Trust. Any debate? I'm sorry? Yes, I see what you're saying. There's an estimated cost, Mr. Weiser, of $500,000 in the warrant. Then the recommendation of the Finance Committee was $250,000. So I'm not sure whether it's a typo.
Mr. Moderator?
Do you want to answer that specific question?
Unless the chair wants to. No, so at the time that the Finance Committee was making their recommendations, the amount being requested was $250,000. The CPC reconsidered it. It was $500,000 as originally requested. And as you heard the chair of the Finance Committee say, Finance Committee recommends the full $500,000. So it's not a typo, it's just outdated.
Maybe not a typo, maybe a Scrivener's error. Any further debate under Article 25? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Article 26, see if the town will vote to appropriate from CPA Act funds $7,500 from FY 2024 estimated annual revenue to fund the Lower Cape Housing Institute. Any funds left unspent from this article to be returned to CPA Act Fund, Community Housing Reserve, and act fully thereon. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 26 be accepted and adopted, and that the sum of $7,500 be appropriated from the FY 2024 estimated annual revenue for the purpose of this article.
So the motion's been made and seconded under Article 26. It is $7,500 and is to be appropriated from estimated annual reserves for this purpose. Any debate? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Article 27. See if the town will vote to appropriate from Community Preservation Act funds $640,000 to fund the exterior preservation and window restoration at Brooks Academy Museum. and an additional $50,000 to fund combination storm windows in the event that the preservationists determine that combination storm windows are necessary to the preservation. Said appropriations consisting of $250,000 from the Historic Preservation Reserve, $198,700 from estimated annual revenue for historic preservation, and $241,300 from FY estimated annual revenue. Any funds left unspent in this article are to be returned to the Community Preservation Act Fund, Historic Preservation Reserve, and to act fully thereon. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 27 be accepted and adopted, and that the sum of $250,000 be appropriated from the Historic Preservation Reserve, that the sum of $198,700 be appropriated from FY 2024 estimated annual revenue for historic preservation, that the sum of $241,300 be appropriated from the FY 2023 estimated annual revenue, for a total appropriation of $690,000 for the purpose of this article.
So the motion under Article 27, which has been seconded, is the $690,000 that's proposed in the article. This is for Brooks Academy renovations. Any debate? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. It is a vote. Article 28. See if the town will vote to appropriate Community Preservation Act funds, $256,282.40 from 2020 estimated annual revenue to fund the Revolutionary War and Civil War Memorial to be located at the Evergreen Cemetery. Any funds left unspent from this article to be returned to Community Preservation Act Fund undesignated fund balance. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 28 be accepted and adopted, and that the sum of $256,282.40 be appropriated from FY 2024 estimated annual revenue for the purpose of this article.
So the motion under Article 28 is accept and adopt, and the amount is the $256,282.40. You'll note, Mr. Weiser, that the Finance Committee recommendation didn't have the 40 cents. I think it was another Scrivener's error. No. Any debate under 28? I see a gentleman in the middle here. We'll start with you.
Thank you, Duncan Berry.
I'm
West
sorry,
Harwich.
Duncan, I didn't recognize you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to speak in support of this motion. I think it is an opportunity for us to memorialize and celebrate the rights of free speech, privacy of conscience, and freedom of assembly that we enjoy and participate in the actions that we're undertaking this evening. The fact that we have 284 Revolutionary War patriots who served in Harwich, 28 of whom who would have lived in what is today Brewster, along with 146 Civil War veterans. These are individuals who fought for these rights and privileges, and I think it is an amazing opportunity for us to step up and embrace this element of our heritage that we live with and work on and work through every day in our civic life. I would also add that Commissioner Kelly is pursuing CPC funds from Brewster, as well as funds from the DAR, the SAR, Order of the Founders and Patriots, as well as sons and daughters of Union veterans. So this number is going to come down. Thank you.
At the time, I'll note, Duncan, at the time of the Revolutionary War, Brewster was part of Harwich.
That's correct, and there are over 100 or more than 200 Revolutionary Patriot graves that are unmarked, graves for people like John Chase Jr. from West Harwich, one of my peeps, who died crossing the Delaware River December 25th, 1776. These are the kind of people. George Brett, lieutenant, senior officer, Massachusetts Line, original member of the Society of Cincinnati. They're amazing people from our town. Let's celebrate them. Thanks.
Gentleman in the middle.
Thank you. I support the veterans and the war people very, very much. I just built a family war memorial, and I put it in a location where a lot of people would see it. And I've also done a lot of ancestry research and visited a lot of cemeteries. And I don't see a lot of war memorials inside cemeteries. And my question here is, who's going to be seeing this? Right? So why don't we put these war memorials, which I support 100%, in the village concept where people will see them? East Harwich Corner next to the fire station would be a great spot. There's other places in Harwich Port. So that's my point of view. I think this is a great idea, but I think it's the wrong execution. Thank you.
Any further debate on the motion under Article 28? Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator, Robert Thompson, Harwich Center. I'm a member of the Cemetery Commission, one of the commissioners. These two memorials are just the first steps in a larger Veterans Memorial at the Rotary located in Evergreen Cemetery. We're moving it there from Island Pond because of the difficulty of access when we have memorial services there. The outline, there's a Facebook page that we're trying to get up, but the big picture is a large American flag that is then surrounded by the 6 flags of the current commands in the military. There'll be memorial benches around there, and then these 2 memorials will be allocated along what we are calling the Walk of Remembrance, which will be a long brick sidewalk that will meander through the cemetery in Evergreen. And along those ways in the future, we will have memorials for every conflict and every veteran organization, such as the Gold Star families, just to name one. And that's the big picture. So yes, it would be better if we had a center place in the middle of town, which real estate is kind of prime. We have the land here. We've already started the project, and there's plenty of room for everybody when we do have ceremonies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Any further debate on the motion under Article 28? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. The motion carries. Article 29. See if the town will vote to appropriate from Community Preservation Act funds $350,000 from FY 2024 estimated annual revenue to fund the 203 Bank Street preservation of the old fire station, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept an historic preservation restriction on the property. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 29 be accepted and adopted, and that the sum of $350,000 be appropriated from FY 2024 estimated annual revenue for this purpose.
Motion under Article 29 is accept and adopt, and the sum is $350,000 be appropriated from the FY 2020 estimated annual revenue for this purpose. Debate. Yes, gentleman in the middle.
Robert Thomason, Oliver Snow Road. I can't remember whether it was last year or the year before when this was sold to an individual group, and they got it for a discount from the town, and instead of someone who had another offer to build affordable housing was turned down, and the town gave these people a discount to make a museum or something. Nothing has been done to the building since then. It looks terrible. Now they're coming back for more money after getting a discount, and I wonder why. Why don't they step up and do something themselves with it, or let it go to affordable housing? Thank you.
Mr. Powers.
Thank you. I would try to say respectfully, I believe the previous speaker is incorrect. This particular property was disposed of by RFP by the Board of Selectmen. It was a competitive bid, and the high bid was what was accepted by the town. So there was no discount given, and there were 2 private nonprofit groups that partnered together. If memory serves correctly, the town got over $350,000 for the property, which tied back to the assessed value. So the town did not look at this as a discount, and it certainly was not anything other than an RFP that yielded the best price.
Yes, in the middle.
Elizabeth Harder. And just to let you know, for those who don't know me, all I do is try to get housing. So the first thing I did was ask Michael, is this an appropriate place for housing? It is not. There are all sort of environmental problems. The lot isn't actually as large as you think it is, and it's completely, much to my chagrin, completely unsuitable for affordable housing. So I ask you to support this. I think it's going to be another great attraction for people to visit Harwich. Thanks.
Any further debate? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 29, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. Motion carries unanimously. Article 30, see if the town will vote to appropriate from Community Preservation Act funds $13,000 from FY 2024 estimated annual revenue to fund the Oak Street Bike Path Crossing Lights project. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 30 be accepted and adopted, and that the sum of $13,000 be appropriated from FY 2024 estimated annual revenue for the purpose of this article.
Motion under Article 30 is accept and adopt, and the sum is $13,000 to be appropriated. Any debate? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 30, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Article 31. See if the town will vote to appropriate from Community Preservation Act funds $150,000 from FY 2020 estimated annual revenue to fund the senior softball fields restroom project. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 31 be accepted and adopted, and that the sum of $150,000 be appropriated from FY 2024 estimated annual revenue for the purposes of this article.
Motion under Article 31 is accept and adopt. The sum is $150,000 to be appropriated from estimated annual revenue. Is there any debate under Article 31?
Van
Yes, sir.
Castledorian, a longtime member of the Senior Softball League. I just want to point out to all of you that the Senior Softball League has donated $20,000 towards this project.
Any further debate? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 31, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Article 32. See if the town will vote to appropriate from Community Preservation Act funds $110,000 from 2024 estimated annual revenue to fund the Brooks Park Tennis Court Pickleball Resurfacing Project. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 32 be accepted and adopted, and that the sum of $110,000 be appropriated from FY 2024 estimated annual revenue for the purpose of this article.
Motion's been made and seconded under Article 32. It's accept and adopt, and the sum is $110,000. Is there any debate? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Article 33. See if the town will vote to appropriate from Community Preservation Act funds $35,000 from FY 2024 estimated annual revenue, fund the Sand Pond Restroom additional funding request. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 33 be accepted and adopted, and that the sum of $35,000 be appropriated from FY 2024 estimated annual revenue for the purpose of this article.
Motion under Article 33 is accept and adopt. The sum is $35,000 to be appropriated from the estimated annual revenue. Is there any debate under 33? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Article 34. See if the town will vote to appropriate Community Preservation Act funds $92,000 from the FY 2024 estimated annual revenue to fund the Skinnequit Pond remediation project. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 34 be accepted and adopted, and that the sum of $92,000 be appropriated from FY 2024 estimated annual revenue for the purpose of this article.
Motion under Article 34 is accept and adopt. The sum is $92,000, and it's proposed to be appropriated from the estimated annual revenue. Is there any debate? Yes. Lori Moore.
Lori Moore, Parallel Street. Excuse me. These last couple ones, in one place it says take it from the FY 2024 estimated annual revenue, and then down here it says transferred from Community Preservation Act. Is that the same thing?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Any further debate? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 34, so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. Motion carries unanimously. And that is the end of our community preservation articles. Article 35, see if the town will vote to accept the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 110A, relative to office hours on Saturday, or take any other action relative thereto. I hope you've read the explanation on this one. Mr. Hughes.
I move that Article 35 be accepted and adopted.
It's been moved and seconded that Article 35 be accepted and adopted. Any debate? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. Motion carries unanimously. Article 36. This is the amendment to Chapter 300 of our general bylaws for water. And I'm not going to read it in its entirety. Hopefully you've had a chance to review it. Mr. Hughes, do you have a motion?
I move that Article 36 be accepted and adopted, and the town amend the general bylaws as printed in the warrant.
So the motion under Article 36 is that the article be accepted and adopted, and the town amend the general bylaws as printed in the warrant. Debate. Gentleman standing to my right.
Chris Harris, Bank Street. It's been, I'm against the motion. I thought it was a great effort last summer to conserve water, and everybody did a great job, and that was wonderful. But I just am reticent because the management of that whole water emergency was tough to understand. You know, there were waivers, and then there weren't waivers, and there were levies, and it was just confusing, and so I just don't have the level of confidence to move on with this article in the process. Maybe so. I'm just giving you feedback that I'm not confident in this process, and then just raising the money. The other thing that bothered me about the process is individual reporting on people. I'm not saying I was reported on or anything, but I just look at that, and I don't want to be trite, but that's Soviet, okay? And it just bothers me that happened. So I'm against the motion. I'd love to see it regrouped and a little more confidence, not upping the ante, and you can be rest assured that you were successful in this emergency last year.
Any further debate on the motion under Article 36, which is to accept and adopt the bylaw? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Marauder. My name is Gary Crow. I'm a Harwich Water Commissioner, Wastewater Commissioner. Basically, all this is saying is that we want to raise the fines from $50 to $100 and from $100 to $300. That's basically all it is.
So is it fair to say that the only change in the bylaw is what was in bold in the warrant?
Those two items, that's it.
Those two items. Everything else already exists. Any further debate? Yes. Lori Moore.
Lori Moore, I'm over here now. On what page of the annual report does it show how much we made off those fines?
I'm not sure that it does, but if you're looking for how much we made, maybe the Water Commissioner can respond to that.
He's got it. What page?
It looks like Dan maybe has been drafted for that one. He's not a voter, as you recognized earlier, and there's no objection if, Dan, if you have the answer.
Yeah, last year we collected about $38,000 in fines for water ban violations. Fining is the last thing we want to do, really.
Any further debate on the amendment to the Water Department bylaw?
Yeah, my name is
Yes, ma'am.
31 Cherokee Road. This sort of goes back to the enforcement issue. One of my neighbors in particular, watered his lawn every single day of the summer. And I think that, if the fine, my only thoughts are that he has enough money that he just doesn't care about being fined, that the enforcement wasn't there, but it sounds like it was. And if he really just has enough money that he doesn't care, then possibly raising the fines would actually make a difference. I don't know that that's the case, but if the enforcement's there and people are still doing it, then it seems like that might be worth something to consider.
Any further debate? Yes, ma'am.
Noreen Donahue, one of your water wastewater commissioners. In regards to this change, for a little background, after last summer and the water shortages, the board actually spent a great deal of time looking at many different changes we might make to the bylaws, and we'll continue to do that for the future. The reason we stuck with just this simple change of changing the amount of dollars was actually because the local district court, honestly, they were not interested in $50 fines and our staff going there. The labor to collect them was extraordinary. I mean, $38,000 sounds good, but if you know the price we paid in labor, it was crushing. And our intent in raising the fines is not to gather more money, because believe me, selling water is the best way we have to make money, not fining people. But since the amounts in the bylaws were so old, being at $50 and $100, as I say, the court wasn't even interested. So this change that would only affect people that were fined anyway is being asked to bring those up to the 2023 level. Hopefully this year we'll have a better water situation to begin with, but we'll also be focusing as much on education as on fines or other methods.
Thank you. Any further debate on the motion under Article 36? Looks like you're ready for a vote. The motion again is accept and adopt as printed. All those in favor of the motion so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. It's a general bylaw, so it does not require a 2/3 majority. So we've come to the beginning of the zoning bylaw amendments, and I see that the chairman of the planning board has risen, and I think for the purpose of making a motion to move those articles to later in the warrant. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Moderator.
And so rather than have you go through with that motion, let me talk to the voters for a minute. Generally, I don't take any new business from 10:45 on. We're at 10:38. His motion is to request that these be considered tomorrow night. They still have an issue with a public hearing that needs to be held tomorrow to perfect their recommendation. I can take his motion and we can move those to sometime tomorrow night, and I can try to do a couple more articles, or we could break here, obviating the need for his motion, and we could start with the zoning articles and not take things out of order tomorrow night. I'm kind of looking for your... It sounds like we have a motion to adjourn till tomorrow evening here at 7 o'clock to start with Article 37, which would obviate the need for the motion I know Mr. Berry is dying to make. So, any debate? Hearing none. All those in favor of adjourning the annual town meeting till tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. We've got a lot of work to do, but I think we can get it done quickly. So signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. The motion's adjourned till tomorrow, the meeting's adjourned till tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. See you then.
You want to keep these, or the clerk going to keep these? These are the motions. You want me to keep them? Okay.
I trust you.
No, I'm good.